Muga Democracy Citizens Party Deputy Leader Cleophas Malala says the party was formed after the ruling party began to ignore the opinions of Kenyans on various policies. Speaking in an interview with KTN News, Malala claims that after realizing that its leader, Rigathi Gachagua, collaborated with others to form a party that would allow Kenyans to be heard.
The second deputy president of the Republic of Kenya was impeached because he tried to advise his boss to listen to the ground, but his boss was adamant. I was removed from office because I tried to advise my former party leader to listen to the people, but he was adamant, and therefore we said, if that is the rallying call that will bind us together, then we will move with Kenyans who want to believe in that school of thought.
Malala has also dismissed claims that the party is tribal as raised by some individuals in Kenya Kwanzaa, saying that Gachagua has collaborated with other parties' leaders like Martha Karua, Eugene Wamalwa, Kalonzo Musyoka, as well as Jubilee leaders as a sign of national unity.
This narrative of saying that we are pushing for a one-party dominance in Mount Kenya, I think, is a narrative trying to be propagated by our opponents so that we divide the opposition. We want to say that the opposition is intact. We know the tactics that they are using, but we are saying we are focused to bring change in this political ecosystem. Okay.
Malala has further defended the presence of some Kenya Kwanzaa MPs and senators at the DCP party launch event, saying the political party's law provides for that opportunity, considering that UDA and ANC merged.
The Political Parties Act of 2013 clearly stipulates that when two parties merge, then the members of those respective parties have got an option of resigning from that party or automatically being deemed that they are not members of the original party, so that they are not compelled to move with that merged entity. The law says that once a party and another party merges, then members of those parties have got the liberty to choose whatever party they want to choose.
Millions of children due to vaccination will have to wait for another month, with the Ministry of Health now saying the country's vaccine supplies will be replenished by mid of next month. Health Cabinet Secretary Aiden Duale says the country has been facing an acute BCG and polio vaccine shortage owing to the failure by the Treasury to release co-financing payments to international vaccine partners Gavi and UNICEF.
UNICEF has confirmed to me in writing yesterday that the first batch will arrive by between the 10th and the 15th of June. So just because of our own late exchequer release. And this will be available, and I will ask even, it was only 1 billion, and we have already sent the money to UNICEF, and they have agreed, they have given us the timeline.
Duale also highlighted progress in the overhaul of the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, which has faced persistent supply chain inefficiencies, saying that its refill is at 47%.
We are doing a serious reform in KEMSA. KEMSA will never be the same again. We have secured for them a letter of credit from Kenya Commercial Bank of 10 billion shilling so that their refill capacity goes to 100%. And never again will KEMSA store the expired drugs.
Nearly half of Kenyans wear second-hand clothes, commonly known as mitumba, according to a new report. According to a survey conducted by the Institute of Economic Affairs Kenya and the Mitumba Consortium Association of Kenya, mitumba trade is thriving in the country, driven by strong consumer demand. The study found that 24.2 million Kenyans bought second-hand clothes in 2023, with the country making 16 billion revenue from it. And finally, the government has been prohibited from shutting down the internet or interfering with access in any way as the public and parliament debate the finance bill that triggered Gen Z protests and a violent state backlash last year. The High Court ruled against such tampering by the government or its agents in a preemptive suit filed by 7 civil society groups and digital rights advocates. It prohibited any form of internet shutdown, throttling or interference with digital digital communications, including social media platforms, telephony, and data services until the case is heard and determined. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
All right, getting into Friday, what does it look like? We're not going to have any wet streets, at least not for now, but traffic will build in some parts, and we'll probably see a lot of outbound traffic leaving the city this morning. For now, it's not too crazy coming off the Thika Superhighway. We're not likely to see any of that, at least for now. Let's see what happens as we get closer to traffic hour. Looks really good on the Uhuru Highway, out through the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. The Southern Bypass is an absolute traffic dream. Nothing happening here. Jago Road, we're going to see a little bit of that as you get towards Makadara at the train station, and then Landis through towards Haile Selassie is not looking too bad right about now either. We're starting off Friday. Let's see what it has in store, and we keep things moving. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room. It's Friday. It's Friday. Good morning at 10 minutes after 6 o'clock. And here we are, the Situation Room. Very, very, very good morning to you, Dennis Okari.
Good morning.
How are you?
It's a cold Friday.
Is it really cold?
Yes, it is.
Come on. What are you going to say when it gets to June?
It's freezing.
Oh, stop it.
June has started early.
Come on, you guys. Is it really that bad?
But it is a good morning. Yes.
Where are you, Salama?
Salama kabisa. From 2 a.m.
Yeah.
We are surviving.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. From 2 a.m. A little bit earlier today.
Oh, yeah.
The stuff of babies.
Yeah.
Keeping you up. Don't worry.
Parenting is not easy.
Mark,
choices
are not
have
struggles that you have.
Choices have consequences.
Here we go.
Me, I made my choice 11 years ago. I do not have babies. I leave them alone. They cook for themselves. You know, they solve their fights alone. At 2 a.m., I sleep. You know, choices have consequences.
Couldn't agree more.
Indeedy, I will not be having that problem for the foreseeable future. Thank God. Forever and ever and ever.
Me too.
You see?
But my dad made a joke and said that my plan might not work because the procedure I did only changes how the kids look like.
Do you realize we're actually discussing a topic here?
What?
What did you just say? It's too early.
Exactly.
What
What topic are we discussing?
Yeah. What did you just say?
I just said I guaranteed myself that future children will not look like me.
Okay. You know, I think it's a layered topic. It's not just one here at this point.
Is that a proverb?
It could be. It could be advice for the future generations.
And you're today in green.
Yes. Different
Even the
shades
shoes
of
are
it.
green.
Yeah. It's a flag, actually.
My shoes are my flag.
Wow,
I know
wonderful.
everybody wants to see, but now
You have more green
No,
outfits for next week.
I could do it for another week.
How long can you go green?
How long can I go green? Probably for another 2 weeks. It is my favorite color, so I go there. But then
I can go black for a whole month.
I could too. I think black is the one that shows up the most. But then I think I also have I could actually do. Yeah, it's a bit scary, isn't it? But I could do more green for another 2 weeks.
Mark, what's your favorite color?
My favorite color, purple.
There's no way.
Purple is my favorite
That's
color.
amazing.
Yeah, and blue comes close second.
Purple.
Yeah.
I have never seen you in an item of purple ever.
It's just that I don't think it looks good on me, but I like looking
But you like
at it.
the color.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That's why if you look at my wardrobe, most of it is blue. Like I can do blue every day.
So what's purple then? Okay,
We're
another
gonna
topic.
liken this. Yeah, we're gonna liken this to the previous conversation. So
I actually wasn't.
gonna go and keep it moving.
My kerchiefs, most of my kerchiefs are purple actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ni sawa too. Okay, good morning everybody. Yes, clearly we're in the house. Ndu Mark Dennis with you as we're getting into the Situation Room for this Friday. Our live streams are up. Sindio, they're working, clicking. YouTube, Facebook, X, Karibu Sana. And even as we get into it this morning, we'll say hello to you in just a bit. So do tell us where it is that you're tuning in from today. Ednah is here. Ednah, say hi so that we can hear you. She's just smiling
From the
there.
soundproof booth.
Sheepishly. She wants to play us music. What is she doing? So you speak, Ednah. She's not
Beverage
talking.
cans can be
She's
recycled.
just acting from.
But the artist is called Kitui.
I'm telling you, Ednah is in a good mood today. We would have expected you to be moving your shoulders, Mark.
Yeah?
This is you was doing the translation.
No, I was trying to understand. I cannot think and dance at the same time. You know, past the age of 35, either you choose to make money or to continue dancing. You can guess which one I chose.
I can understand.
If you're a man.
Hubira Biosi.
Dennis, can you still dance?
My knees.
You see.
Yes, my knees. Yeah. After years of dancing, years and years of dancing,
You've now retired.
there's a point where your knees just give way. Yeah. You don't want to dance, but you find yourself moving.
Moving.
Yeah.
Well, that's the way to start the day. Timothy Kitui, Hubira Biosi. It means above all. So the B is a V.
Yeah, Hubira Biosi.
Hubira Biosi.
Yeah.
That is how we start the morning today. Ednah doesn't disappoint. Getting into Friday and getting into those conversations that we will have today. Let me tell you what those conversations will be. We're going to start at the tail end of it because at 9 o'clock we'll be talking about health. We're going to be looking specifically at stories of people who have had an interesting experience with the health sector, and we'll be sharing some of those stories this morning. And just it's actually a plea, it's a cry, and we're saying, you know what, we've got to be able to do better than this. We should be able to fix this. The health system through that lens is what we will be looking at 9 a.m. today. And then we take it back and we will then be talking at 8 o'clock. Excuse me, just a minute. At 8 o'clock, we'll be looking around issues concerning... If my phone can just behave, it would be fantastic. And now it's behaving. Thank you very much. Yeah, so then at 8 o'clock, we'll be talking about, the life of an influencer. The creation of content and its influence in Kenya. It's a thing that there are people who are building careers. There are people who have actually quite solid in terms of following and what they've been able to do as a result of influencing and content creation. What exactly is that all about? Why does it look as though it is a career that folks can actually get into? How do you get into it? What are some of those? And Joel Rao, who is the CEO of Dentsu, will join us at 8. And then at 7 o'clock, it is Friday. So a Healthy Friday conversation is around the era of refraction, defective vision. Quite a number of us do have to deal with issues around refraction. Ashihundu Hyahuyumbi. Where? These people from this side. Left, west. Mark.
You're welcome.
Is the general manager of Royal Eye and Ear Hospital in Parklands, and Dr. Abdulalim Tolba is a consultant ophthalmologist and Egyptian professor. They'll be joining us. That every time you see somebody with glasses and somebody says you must be blind, well, that's not the case for a lot of people. Eye issues are varied as they come, but refraction and defective vision is one of the causes of a lot of vision impairment. So we'll be looking at that for our Healthy Friday conversation at 7 o'clock. And we get into those conversations today. Sawa? Very, very good. Yes, I said I was going to tell you guys the shades of green. Let me tell you. Today, I must tell you the shades of green before you tell us the proverb for today. Did you know that there's a shade called green? Obviously, There's lime, there's pear, there's pine, there's pickle. There is something I can't pronounce, chartreuse, sans français. There's fern, there's moss, there is parakeet.
Aren't you just counting plants at this rate?
You might as well say maize.
There is pistachio, which I wore pistachio on Monday. And then after that, I wore, in fact, now looking at these colors, then it looks as though what I wore on Tuesday was just green or fern. And then I wore parakeet or shamrock on Wednesday. Juniper, olive, shamrock, mint, basil, sage.
Are we cooking?
Emeralds.
Those are ingredients.
It's about to be soup.
Yes.
It's about to be soup. Sea foam. Did you know that there's a shade of green called sea foam? There's also one called seaweed. And I'm sure you're going to like the last one very much. Crocodile green. It's a shade of green. I'm telling you. So there are also others. You want to know? Did you know that there are 240 plus shades of green? There's light green, there's emerald green, there's cool green, there's army green, which I wore yesterday. There's Castletown green, don't even ask. There's blue green, there's seafoam green, like you said. There's lightsaber green, which others would call Kamba green. There's hunter green, forest green, sea green, yellow green, Kelly green, pine green, dark green, mint green, olive green.
green.
It goes on and on and on and on. Just so you know, and we can keep it going. But okay, how about we don't do that?
Yes,
and we
please.
look at today's proverbs because Mark is getting uncomfortable.
Yes, I was getting a headache, my friend. Marayo, it's trees, then it's ingredients from nyama, and there's no meat. Well, the Libyans say, walk with sandals, then you get good shoes.
No, give us another one.
No, I chose it specifically.
No, you know why?
Uh,
Because we did what you say.
It would be nice to tell me which
Memory lapse.
I chose it because of.
Just pretend like this didn't happen.
I am.
Okay.
But some more sandals today. Where?
Oh!
Yes.
Snap! Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. Then you get good shoes.
Okay.
Where the turban moves, there moves the territory.
The turban, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ladies first.
Nice
Good
one. Nice one. Where the turban moves, there moves the territory. Isn't it? Like, it's the turban in a lot of Arab influenced societies is the head wrap for men. And of course, it's a covering for your head. So, and that for a lot of people is the center. It's the center of gravity. It's the center of everything, center of thinking. So one would say that what you carry in your head is your wealth. So where the turban goes, there goes your everything. So without your head, you're useless.
Well, turbans used to mean a saintly person, a wise sage. So where the sage would go is where the territory would go.
Interpretations vary.
For me, turban means a number of things. Culturally, the different types of turbans, but what is coming to my mind is one of honor, respect. It's like a status symbol.
Yeah.
Could symbolize leadership, could symbolize authority. So where the turban goes, authority goes, respect goes, honor goes, authority goes, leadership goes. That's my interpretation.
Voila. C'est ça?
I do not know French. Looking at you with such great expectation.
Sorry.
I am sorry to let you down.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. I mean, sure. I mean, and that's it really, that interpretations vary, but it's just interesting how the proverbs are connected to culture, and through that culture there is a meaning. It means something, which is one of the reasons, which is one of the reasons that I was so upset with colonialism, is that to a certain extent it wiped out a lot in terms of culture on the African continent, except for those who were able to hang on to it and then were deemed as the rebellious folk. But that was one of the things that for me irked me the most about colonialism, is that it took away, it stripped a lot of communities of their culture, and they needed to do that in order for people to become subservient to them. I could go on and on, but
I have a critical question though. I've been thinking, we've probably lived 4 decades on this earth, and do you think me and my listeners?
Okay. You and your tribe.
Yes.
You being the turban.
Yes,
Okay.
thank you. Yes, the mover of the territory.
Yes.
I wonder whether we have proverbs that have been generated in the last half a century.
Oh my God.
Unless ground.
I think they are.
vintage and Janga.
I think they are, but they can come in form of motivational quotes, maybe.
But when I think of that, you only live once, popped up, died.
YOLO.
Yeah, as in I can't name one.
That's interesting.
Could it mean that we lack wise men and women?
In this day and age,
Yeah.
or that those wise men and women who are there are actually not documenting their thoughts. A lot of the proverbs that we see today came via oral tradition.
Yes.
And then they were passed down, and people, it just became a thing of the community. But one of the things that we say about our current, and I say that we don't document enough.
There are proverbs, I think, every day. I'll give one. So when I was getting married, there's an old man who told me, so Dennis, see this woman you've just chosen? So a woman is like an empty flash disk. So when you take her home, you're the one who will decide what to put inside the flash disk. If you put in good files, it will produce good files. Put in bad files, it will produce viruses. No, literally speaking, that's what I was told. And I say, that's some serious wisdom. You give her headaches, she's going to give you trouble.
Yeah.
But the comparison to a flash disk was
a modern example.
Yes, it was just a modern terminology because he felt maybe I would understand it more because I have flash disks around me. So, yes.
Okay, Mark, stop it.
Where's your mind?
Just stop
Come
it.
back to earth.
So we can say hello to people real quick. I like that proverb, Okari. But shall we look and say hello to Don Saba, who's telling us about Nemis and Kemis, who is dead? Okay, good morning to you. Michael Olande is tuned in from the land of 1,000 hills. Happy Friday. Hamjambo Nyote, and then you say?
Hatujambo. Hatujambo.
See, you confuse me. Desmond says, good morning, everybody. Robert Mbogo is tuned in. Isaiah is here. Rose Grace tunakupenda sana. Thank you so much for tuning in every morning. Iten is the home of champions, we're told. And Peter Chemursoy is tuned in. And Gore, the beautiful lady, is here. Lichi Tseman says, Ndu and Ednah, mnapenda mbuta ama gege. By the way, we are going to Usenge Beach. Yes. You guys, tomorrow is the day.
My friend, tomorrow I'm sleeping.
Fish will be eaten. Hello, Princess Ndu, Dennis, Mark, Ednah. Yes, don't worry. He will soon be above the water. This city. Is it the water or the weather? Hisa Daniel is tuned in this morning. Ricardo says, good morning. You've called yourself Ricardo Spice Mariera. I like it very much. Tuned in from Kitengela. Engineer Karaoke is here. Simon Kiburu is also tuned in. From Addis Ababa, Birhane is here. Albert Gisore is tuned in as well. Bernardito, we see you. Ndu is sad. A grandmother had to take her chickens to school as school fees at a time. MPs claim NGCDF is helping the poor in bursary. I couldn't connect. I could connect, but I couldn't really watch that for more than 3 minutes because it broke my heart into pieces. And I said, this is the same Kenya, the same country that has so many sides of the divide in one place, one time. Chicken, and she was hoping that they would take these children. And they did. Jimmy Munodhi is here. John Mwang is tuned in as well. Bernard Odongo is tuned in. I mean, there's so many of you, and our time is really running short as we were greeting ourselves. Pan-African, we see you. Zach is here. Onganyi Molala says, good morning. Great job, you people. Thank you so much. Hello, TGIF. Nakuru is up 1 week till like 10:30. Look at you, Arami. We make sure you remind us we sing for you. In fact, these two gentlemen will sing. Abera Bethwell, and they're quiet because they think I'm joking. Fiery Red is tuned in this morning. You made it through the week in green clothes. Yes, I did. Keeping up with Friday dancing. Yes, we are. Ednah Bwakire. Kwanini. I don't want to spoil the language. Kwanya Omingina Endwe. Did I butcher it properly? I probably did. Michael is tuned in this morning and says, what a way to break the day. Yes. Good morning. Tuned in from Nairobi is Sarah. King Dave Lubali is also tuned in. Washoga Toto, good morning. You can never stop dancing. Never, ever. Shem Ondara tuned in and says, good morning, Bichachi. This is your old friend Shem Ondara listening from Seattle, Washington.
Hey,
the home of
up,
Microsoft, Shem? Amazon, and Boeing.
Well, next time I am in the States, I shall say hi, Shem.
Bas, very, very good. You guys are all here. Judy Waweru, Wankoi, the sisters here as well. Mr. Henry says, good morning. Ahmed, a flash disk. I know that was an interesting one. You should actually write that down, Okari. Ahmed says, can't stop laughing, Ahmed. We see you, you're still laughing. If I didn't call your name, doesn't mean I didn't see you or that we don't appreciate you guys. Always great to have you here, even as we do. We're going to take 3 minutes to look at the headlines and then come back, look at stories in detail. Let me go with the Standard. And then, Okari, I guess you can go with The Nation. And Mark, you can go with the Business Daily, right? On the front page of the Standard today, Tower of... People say Babel, others say Babel. Which one do you say?
Potato.
Babel.
Yes.
Because they actually babbled.
Yes.
Okay, so I say Babel as well. The Tower of Babel. Conflicting statements from the members of the National Security Council of formal meetings, including parliament and media interviews, have left the country wondering whether the apparent mix-up emanates from a case of poor messaging and inability to point communications towards a certain end, or is it indeed a reflection of weak coordination among top security organs? Which one is it? Because over here, you have the CS, Kipchumba Murkomen, saying one thing. Over here, you have the NIS Director General saying something else. Then over here, you have the President of the country saying something else. So which one is it? And that's the question that everybody's asking. Regulator approves standard rights issue. The Capital Markets Authority has given Standard Group the green light to raise 1.5 billion shillings from shareholders through a rights issue. Want to know what that is? We'll tell you. More University dismisses 900. We're talking about the university issue yesterday.
Yep.
And unfortunately, too many universities are having this problem. 24 million Kenyans wear mitumba. And I think it is very okay. I'll tell you why. Until you say that your textile industry is thriving and producing at the amount that Kenyans can afford, don't knock the thing, man.
But it has to start somewhere.
It has to start somewhere. It does.
You see, in Burkina Faso, for example, the current leader of that country kicked everyone who was importing their mitumbas, even new clothes, school uniforms. Why would you import school uniforms, for example?
When you can make them there in the country.
Exactly. So, can start somewhere.
Okay, well, that's the conversation that we'll have. Give us the headlines that you have, Dennis.
All right. So, on the Daily Nation, we have on the front page, shame of political thuggery.
Why?
This is one of those stories I was watching yesterday, and as a journalist, reflected back 20 years ago when I was starting out, and it was such a revered career, respected. People respected journalists, because all a journalist is doing with a pen is just writing. All they're doing with a microphone is just telling the story. But we've come to a place, unfortunately, in this country where it's actually almost weekly or monthly. You know, it's not isolated incidents. It's now becoming a normal thing where anybody can slap a journalist who is just covering an event, has no opinion whatsoever. So on the front page is that story of goons causing chaos at the launch of a party by former DP Rigathi Gachagua. The violence, yet another ominous signal to growing political intolerance ahead of the 2027 polls. Yesterday's ugly scenes were in sharp contrast to the calm accorded to the rebel DP Ruto in 2021 when he first publicly introduced his UDA party. Then the last story there, new school system links data with Maisha number. I think we have so many systems. I'm losing track. I'm losing track of where we are. You leave this country for a month or two, you come back, there's a totally new system for something, you know. So there's a new system that will integrate all learners' data with Maisha number, digital identity, which will be piloted from July. The Kenya Education Management Information System, KEMIS, will replace the National Education Management System, NEMIS. And then unfit for office, the case against 4 IEBC nominees, not a surprise there, but a court petition over persons nominated by President Ruto to serve as poll commissioners could delay further the reconstitution of the Electoral Commission.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, one Ednah has decided to test my Swahili reading skills.
I don't think it's as good as mine, but
you sure? Gachagua afiatuka.
Afia what now?
Afiatuka.
Okay. Afieka.
That's called to pop off like a bullet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So naibu rais aliyekuwa naibu rais Rigathi Gachagua sasa ameanzisha mikakati rasmi ya kumwondoa afisini rais William Ruto mwaka wa 2027 kwa kukataja rasmi chama chake cha kisiasa atakachokitumia kufanikisha azma hiyo. Si atakachokitumia
rasmi.
Yes.
Rununu.
Bwana Gachagua anapanga kukitumia chama cha Democracy for Citizen Party, yani DCP, kusuka muungano na vinara wa vyama vingine vya upinzani kudhamini mgombeaji mmoja wanayemtarajia kufanya Dr. Ruto kuandikisha historia kama rais wa kwanza nchini kudumu kwa muhula mmoja pekee.
I know Mark, exactly what you've just said.
Let me tell you the secret to reading Swahili. Swahili is poetry. It's flowery.
No,
so you speak like you're singing it.
No, I don't disagree. Except this font is tiny and I wear glasses.
Oh, no, it's the font.
No, please try reading
the font. No, it's a user problem.
You try.
No, it's a user problem.
You. Let me go to the Business Daily.
Okay, real quick.
Kufiatuka ni nini na unaniambia hapa?
Kufiatuka.
Trump to take 17 billion from Kenya's diaspora cash. 17 billion with a B. He has proposed a 5% tax on external transfers of cash out of the United States, which will translate to Kenya losing 17 billion with a B. Cooperative Bank grows profit by 6.9 billion in the first quarter. Well, that is good news for those who have shares there. Rubis Aviation Farm in a 396 million contract. So Rubis Energy Kenya is entangled in a 396.24 million wrangle with Sky Tanking Kenya over an unpaid fuel jet supplied 2 years ago. And then Umeme hints at lifting of trading suspension. Umeme has raised hopes of a return to trading at the Nairobi and Kampala bourses next month after holding negotiations with the Ugandan government over the disputed payout accruing from its power distribution concession.
Okay, well, how about then we come and look at those stories in greater detail at 22 minutes to 7 o'clock. So much to get through as we get into this morning. We'll take a break and let's see what's happening with traffic on these streets, and then come back and look at the meat of these stories. Yes. Now is when we see traffic starting to build on the thicker superhighway coming through towards Survey, and then at one end towards Muranga Road, on the other side towards Wangari Maathai. This traffic's coming in from Garden City Hot, and it looks like it'll be busy for a while. The Eastern Bypass is starting to feed with traffic as you get towards North Airport Road around that Embakasi area. Outer Ring inbound traffic, outbound traffic is also starting to build, and on Gong Road looks good, free and clear for now, and nothing happening as you come in from Naivasha Road, but it is Friday. Late start towards traffic as we normally see. Let's wait and see what happens as we get into it. All right, not seeing much coming out of Westerns either at this point. And there's the Southern Bypass in all her glory, taking you out of the city. Let's see what happens later. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room. Water everywhere, not a drop to drink. My goodness, there's so many stories that we are wondering what on earth is going on. Where do we start? You want to tell us what they did to Gachagua yesterday? Or, and then we can look at this Maisha story. Dennis, what happened to Gachagua?
So Gachagua was launching his new political outfit. We knew that was coming anyway from the court cases, and when it was clear that he was going to be replaced. So I think he only had two options: either resign to oblivion or align himself with the political party, or actually start one himself. And so from my readings, is launching his political party is a vehicle to negotiate with other like-minded parties. I guess that's where all these things are heading to anyway. So he did his launch yesterday, but there were some issues that happened yesterday. So security agents were roughing up people. It's still unclear to me who exactly these people are, because the Interior CS said that those were Gachagwa's people who didn't get paid, and therefore they had gone to that place to get their money, and they was told there was no money, and they started fighting. The other take on it is these were goons or thugs who were sent to disrupt the launch of his political party, and therefore his security detail was firing the shots in the air to disperse these people, and there was this confrontation, and then unfortunately journalists were caught in between. The journalists from KTN, journalists from Citizen, there's a journalist from, I can't remember which station, they were roughed up, some were beaten, some were told to delete the footage for whatever reason. So that's the drama that we saw yesterday. So unfortunately, no arrests have been made so far. I recall the CS saying that the police were not notified that there was such a launch.
Then begs the question, is that a rule? Is that a requirement? Is that the standard, that if there is a launch of something, if you're launching People's Progressive Mark Bichachi and Sons, must you inform that the police that this is going to happen? Breathe.
The reason I'm finding it hard to breathe is there's so much wrong. So many things. First, let me start as a comms person. Why was the guy in red?
It's a power color.
No. But his party colors are?
What? Green. See, they're complementary colors. They look good together.
Why was it Chinese? Those bands on his yellow bands. Anyway, then you move to the fact that in every launch, political meeting, there are people who are ex officio called thugs.
Ex officio.
Because they are not in the party role to vote or to do anything, but they're always there. In fact, ODM famously upgraded them to the men in black, and it's become normal. It is something we are not shocked by. Then they decide to beat people up, and decide to beat journalists up because they don't want people to know that they were beating people up. But this is the age of social media. They themselves were taking videos of themselves beating people up. And then you hear both sides of the story, that they were supposed to be paid. Which then is political bribery, and then we talk about it as though it is nothing.
Normal.
Yes, and then on the other side, they were supposed to disrupt. But in Kenya, if you don't disrupt a political meeting, was it even a political meeting? And then suddenly, Rigathi Gachagua is also a saint. Mimi, Kenya, syllabus yenyu imenishinda, and I got A in chemistry in Form 4.
Well done. I think you were telling us many things there.
I think for me, the main issue, because there's so many ways you can spin this. So one spin will be these were hired by the man himself, so that all attention goes into, look, I'm a victim here, this and that. It's not to happen. I'm not saying that's what happened in this case. My issue is, where this launch was happening, it was a residential area. Shots are being fired. At one point, and I'm always very keen whenever I see a security do that, at one point, there's a gentleman with an AK-47 who was shooting in the air, but the aim of the gun, from my vantage point when I was watching, I could be wrong, but it was not too far from the top floor of one of the buildings. And we've known and we've seen incidents where someone innocent sitting the balcony,
baby pendo,
you know. And so my concern is, as much as, you know, even the deputy president Kithure Kindiki was condemning the incident, we now steer away from the thuggery, and we forget that the other people are not party to what's going
Yes.
on and they're innocent. And when something like this happens, you could actually end up killing someone.
Yes.
And the problem is that it's normal. This is my problem. The things we consider normal. You know, if I come to your house and your kid is walking on their hands, and that's how he walks all the time, my problem is not that the kid walks like that. It's the fact that you've decided
That's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and that's the problem with our country, that we keep doing very upside down things and assume they're normal. In fact, the very fact that you say that there were shots that were fired and the violence did not stop tells you that the people who are doing the tagging are so used to those gunshots that they are not affected by it. All of these things, my friend, point to a very ludicrous country. And for me, in fact, what makes it, and it really confuses me, how nowadays, for you to be a good person, Ruto just has to fire you.
It's like that's your initiation into some kind of uprightness and morality.
Yes, that's your John the Baptist moment.
Yeah. Man, it doesn't look good at all. And that and even worse so is that when we left here, and even as we had conversations yesterday, the anticipation, and that's the thing, that it's become so normalized, the anticipation is that there was going to be drama. Can you imagine? Even before we saw or heard anything, we just knew this one is going to be dramatic. That's how normalized this kind of nonsense has become.
For some reason, a number of his meetings have been, this is what we've seen.
Whether his wife is in a prayer meeting, or whether he's visiting people in Yeri, or visiting a church service in Kasarani, you know, this is it. And there's a problem. There really is. Now, as soon as you thought it was safe to get out of the water, they decided now that our learners are going to use a new system. Okay? The NEMIS system is the one whereby you can have fake students, fake schools, or rather real schools in terms of name that have been registered, but if you go visit the school in the area, you will be told hakuna kitu kama hiyo hapa. But in the system, that school exists and it is receiving capitation for X number of students and all of that. Okay? That actually happens in Kenya.
Yes.
Now, you had Maisha number. I don't know, do you have a Maisha number?
I have a Huduma number.
Okay.
I don't know how it became Maisha number.
Did you get your card?
Did you get your card?
Which card? For Huduma?
Yeah.
I was sent a message to pick it up.
Where?
Somewhere. First, I live in Langata.
Yeah.
I was told to pick it up in Nairobi West. Was it at a chief's camp or something?
Yeah.
Which I don't know to this day where it is.
Okay.
And since my ID works fine, I had to pick it up.
Do you have a Maisha card, Huduma number?
No, I was told to pick mine in Kilgoris.
Kilgoris?
Yeah.
Okay, where's Kilgoris?
Where were you in relation to Kilgoris?
I have no idea. No idea
So,
whatsoever.
now what they want to do with this Maisha number, right, is that they want to link the school system, the NEMIS previously. Now, NEMIS, every learner in the country has a NEMIS number, right? Now, so that number is linked to your everything, where you went to primary school, where you went to high school, your results everything can essentially be found there. If you made a transfer along the line, whatever. So now when you go to university and you go to now the placement COOPS, they usually pull up the information from your NEMIS number. So you understand what that is about. Now, they have now changed it from NEMIS, which is the National Education Management System, to KEMIS, the Kenya Education Management Information System, and it is going to replace that, and they're going to pilot it come July to see how that's going to eventually work. Now, why, you ask? Well, let me tell you. They've decided to do this because, you know, it sounds nice. Principal Secretary Julius Bitok, and this is in the Ministry of Education, had said that it incorporates two additions: a mobile application for education and integration with the Maisha number digital ID. So you see now there will be history on that one number. So now when you have that number, everything essentially is going to go into that number, where you went to school, your education, etc., etc. It will also be used to process death certificate numbers, help the government store accurate data. This is Maisha number, okay? So now they're linking this new education system to your Maisha number. Where you're going to use it, I don't know, man. But, you know, it's there. NEMIS only had data on basic education. Now, why they wanted to change it to KEMIS is so that they could include all this other information in it. So now from the time you're a student.
You took your kid and they were names. They come back, they are chemists.
Yes.
Okay.
From July 1st, but it's piloting. You know, the thing about a pilot is that you can pilot the thing, and if it doesn't work for whatever reason, you can just go back to factory settings.
True. And you know, as we're talking about piloting, the thing that confuses me again is Huduma, Maisha. That thing cost us money.
Yeah, so.
What do you mean so?
This is it. Isn't that the lethargy that we deal with this thing? That you spend money on something, it goes down the drain, and then later you realize, oh snap, we spent some money on this thing, so how about we actually use it and make it work? And you know what? Bitok is actually excited. He's excited about this thing, and he says, you know what? You know why he's excited? Do you want me to tell you?
Yes, please.
The system would provide real-time data access to learners, parents, education officers, and other stakeholders through an app. He says it's exciting because we will now have photos. For every, I swear I'm quoting. We will now have photos. Sorry. We will now have photos for every stakeholder, including parents, our partners, and county education directors. Everybody's picture will be there. That's why it's exciting. So yeah, you know. Fun stuff.
You know what? Our pictures were also in today's poster for Spice. Yes. Yes, and it was very exciting. Because it was written Mark, Ndu, and Dennis.
Exactly.
Yes, very exciting. Dennis, why don't you look excited?
I don't look excited because this thing makes my head hurt. Number one, not too long ago, there was 50 or 51 to 3 billion that was set aside for the laptop project. Do you remember?
Yeah.
For schools.
Yes.
What happened to that project? We've not done an audit yet. Why didn't it work? It was a good idea, but why didn't it work, or what worked?
It was downgraded to tablets. They were manufactured in Eldoret, and then there was a picture of them crossing a river. You remember that picture? And that's the last thing that came out of that project.
And so now we're discussing something really wonderful. You know, you can dress a pig, but it will still be a pig. You know, and so my issue with this is there are a lot of things to look at. One is, how is the infrastructure and connectivity? It's exciting to launch something in Nairobi, but just go down to a school deep inside Turkana where there's no infrastructure, no internet connectivity, you don't have personnel, you don't have budgets to train those people on how to input data. There is no way of testing the quality assurance of this data that you're collecting. You're looking at the finances. Where is this money coming from? What are the areas of priority? I mean, it's a brilliant idea on paper, but we have a problem in this country. We are good at launching projects, and they are all fine. But when it comes to implementation, that's where we have a big problem.
Unajua, when donate wale watu wa kizungu nyingi. Simplify it. Focus. Even in Turkana, pictures can be taken.
That was the exciting part.
Yeah. That's what we're excited about. Focus, Dennis.
Focus, Dennis.
It's this excitement that we are on excitement. Good. Jeez Louise. Okay. Listen. The Mitumba story, let's look at it. We've got 5 minutes, okay? 24 million Kenyans wear Mitumba, according to a report. Nearly half of Kenyans wear second-hand clothes, commonly known as Mitumba. In Nigeria, we call it bend-down boutique, but okay.
What?
Bend down, because
boutique.
it's
Bend-down boutique.
as in you have to bend down, and it's a boutique, you understand. BDB, but that's I digress. So there's a report from the IEA, that's the the Institute of Economic Affairs, and the Mitumba Consortium. They talk about that the trade is thriving in Kenya, and it's driven by strong consumer demand. That the reason why it is so popular is because people want it. Now, people talk about, through this, you'll see that the reason why people go Mitumba is that they talk about, number one, quality, they talk about variety, and they also talk about affordability. That these things, but you don't want to think twice. You can, with 1,000 shillings or even less, you know, we had the Mitumba folks here with 500 shillings. By the time they take off what they call camera and all of that, and what's left, with 500 bob, you can get 2 pairs of trousers and 4 shirts kind of thing when they're selling at 50 bob kind of thing. It is possible for you to do that. And the argument has been, in as much as you want to invite conversations around protectionism of the market, or rather establishment and development of the market, just do it. It's coming from your implementation thing here that we spoke about just in the last story. Just do it. You have export processing zones that were set up to do this same thing. I understand that in Kenya there were times when clothes were being processed, but they were not affordable for the Kenyan market. They were being exported.
In fact,
am I wrong?
It's not war. It is
still
the fact.
Happening.
Much of our EPZs export to the Gap. They export to Tommy Hilfiger.
Yeah.
There's so many known brands that our EPZs process. So the know-how and the technology exists in-house.
But if you try to buy a pair of jeans off of Gap, you are spending the equivalent at the very least of about 6,000 Kenya shillings.
Yes.
How many Kenyans are buying a pair of jeans for 6,000 Kenya shillings?
First and foremost, there are people who dress top to toe, including jewelry, does not get to 6,000 shillings.
That is what I'm telling you.
That's a problem. But then also, you've got the problem of fast fashion in the West. Because one of the things that we don't talk about, and if you remember when Kagame tried to ban Mitumba, the apparel that came from the West, basically Africa is the West's dumping ground for clothes. For example, in Europe, the average European consumes 24 kilograms worth of clothes of fabric every year. The American is at 56 or something double to the Americans, and the Indians are at 20, and Africans are at 10. Right? So what you do is that this huge amount of fabric that is disposed in the West must be sent somewhere.
But the thing is that it's not just disposal, but it's that they change their clothes according to the season.
Yeah, true.
That the clothes that you wore in the winter are not the clothes that you're wearing come April. They're not the same clothes that you're wearing come August.
But you're not wearing them next winter either.
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That they change the seasons, but they change them. They change their clothes according to the season, but they change them permanently.
Yeah, it's called fast fashion. Yes,
it comes and goes, and where are you going to take it?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Africa is the dumping ground, and it's not just Mitumba. Let's look at how much Mitumba phones, tablets, computers, etc.
I even saw a crazy thing called Mitumba perfume the other day, and I was like, "What?"
Yes.
Yeah, for real.
They're not called Mitumba phones, refurbished.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
It is Mitumba.
Sorry,
it is Mitumba, Dennis. Go get your Huduma number from Kilgoris. It is Mitumba.
Refurbished perfume. And I was like, eh?
No, but guys, let's look at it on this other side. So, you're talking about the wearer, all right? Let's talk about if you want to start a Mitumba business, it is so cheap.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Where I'm just reading something here. The capital requirement, if you're small scale, 1,000, you'll get a few items. If you're medium scale, you can get bales, which can cost between 12,000 to 25,000. Licensing is easy. Location, you can sell it on TikTok or put your Mitumba on the street. Marketing, social media again. So when you look at you starting a Mitumba business, it's easier than going the route of opening up a factory, getting all, we were told this week, how many licenses for small business, for example?
Up to 337,000 shillings, and as opposed to 1,000. This is what we're talking about.
Yes.
If you want to fix the problem, fix the problem.
And Kanjo will not come and shut down your online business.
This is what we talk about.
And the thing is, there's a big question to be asked about, can you access locally made products at the frequency needed?
It's true.
Yeah.
And look, we need to have another conversation about that. For now, good morning. It's 7 a.m.
Ubaga. President William Ruto's foreign policy has once again come into the spotlight following his latest trip to China. This comes after the United States Senate expressed fresh concerns over Kenya's deepening ties with China, a move that could jeopardize Nairobi's long-standing relationship with Washington. Senator Jim Rich, the ranking member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, sounded the alarm during a congressional hearing, citing Ruto's recent visit to Beijing as a cause for a serious reassessment of Kenya's status as a key U.S. ally in Africa.
Kenya and China are not merely trade partners. We are co-architects of a new world order, one that is fair, inclusive, and sustainable.
President Ruto's remarks have now angered US leaders who have criticized him for lack of commitment to regional relations. The United States also claims that Kenya is among the African nations that are violating the agreements they signed on cooperation.
Many African nations maintain troubling ties with China, including key national security partners. Just last month, President Ruto declared that Kenya, a major non-NATO ally, and China are co-architects of a new world order. It's time to reassess our relationship with Kenya and others who forge tight bonds with China. And it isn't just an embracement of China, but also the, quote, new world order, end quote.
Dr. President Professor Kithure Kindiki now says that the Kenya Kwanza government has made great strides in bringing about reforms in the education sector. Speaking after receiving a progress report on the implementation of education reforms from Cabinet Secretary Julius Ogamba, the Deputy President said the achievements are part of the government's goals through the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. He explained that to date, the government under the leadership of President William Ruto has recruited no fewer than 76,000 teachers. Furthermore, Kindiki said the government aims to recruit another 40,000 teachers before the next general election, with the aim of reaching a total of 116,000 teachers by 2027. Nominated Senator Gloria Orwoba has received a temporary reprieve after the High Court suspended disciplinary proceedings initiated against her by the United Democratic Alliance. In a ruling delivered by Justice Lawrence Mugambi, the court granted a conservatory order halting the process pending the hearing and determination of the case. Oroba, through her lawyer Moses Mabea, had moved to court seeking the orders. The senator had been summoned to appear before the UDA disciplinary committee today over alleged 3 incidents that had breached the party's code of conduct. Drugs including cocaine, heroin and marijuana have been seized in Isiolo town. Interior CS Kipchumba Murkomen, during a security tour, said that Isiolo is a hub for importing illegal drugs into the country. Murkomen also said that the registration of terrorists associated with illegal groups like Al-Shabaab is ongoing in those areas, adding that police officers have also seized more than 170 guns used by criminals to carry out livestock theft.
After Mombasa, Nairobi, Isiolo is the third most affected city when it comes, or town, when it comes to the questions of drugs. Basically because this is a route and this is where the traffickers meet. And as you can see that these drug traffickers are very heavily armed. Some targeting our to get to Nairobi, to get to Mombasa.
That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
SpiceFM, Nakuru. Traffic.
All right, getting into Friday morning, a quick look at what's happening on the roads today, and traffic is starting to build as you come in on the Thika Superhighway, getting through towards Survey. Heavy traffic right around that area, and also then looking at traffic coming in from Wayaki Way today. It's pretty busy on Limuru Road as well. Some traffic on Kiambu Road, just, all over the place. But then also on Gong Road, there's some traffic, not too bad coming off of Naivasha Road. Langata Road is starting to build up. Coming in from Galleria through towards Uhuru Gardens at the interchange. And then you'll find traffic that finds its way then towards the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. Coming off of the Eastern Bypass, traffic is heavy. You'll get to North Airport Road and spilling over towards Outer Ring. That is doing the thing there. Kangunda Road, coming in from Jiru out towards Outer Ring and in the other direction as well, is starting to build. So it looks like traffic might be busy this Friday morning. We'll keep an eye on things and let's all try to keep things moving as we talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room. Seven minutes after 7 o'clock and into the second hour of the Situation Room this Friday, the 15th of May. Am I right? Well, you know, it's mid-May, 16th of May, I beg your pardon. And getting into it this morning, Ndu, Mark and Dennis with you. And as we get into conversation for our Healthy Friday conversation in a short while, we come into the top of the hour just to say a welcome to our audience on KTN, and our live streams continue on YouTube, Facebook and on X as we get into some of these important conversations this morning. We came to the top of the hour trying to sort out this Mitumba thing, you know, and Okari, you're saying that, you know what, you choose which one do you want. You can start today if things, you know, went, you know,
topsy-turvy.
Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
if things went topsy-turvy and I say, you know what, Dennis, I want to start something, I want to be able to do something, maybe I start to iron some shirts and sell them, give me 1,000 bob, I can start a Mitumba business today with 1,000 shillings. But if I want to set up a yogurt shop somewhere and I need all the health certification and everything else, or if I want to set up a boutique in the middle of town, I am going to need 337,000 bob. Take your guess as to which one I'm going to pick.
And that's only money for permits, licenses and all that. You've not talked about importing fabric,
yes,
paying workers, the machinery, rent, if you're talking about water, electricity bills. So if you look at the cost, and if you talk to, you know, local designers and local people who actually manufacture clothes, because we have them, they struggle to even expand the business. It's looking at the Kenyan model. It's not sustainable unless you have a serious cash flow, or you have the ability to get loan from a bank.
Yes.
But for a lot of the small scale business people who can only afford to get 10K, 20K, or even 50K, you can start a serious Mitumba business.
Yeah.
All you need to get a good bill of second-hand clothes, shoes, handbags, whatever it is. Go to Gikomba, wash them really nicely, because I've bought Mitumba shoes myself, I'll not lie, and because they're original. But the contrast is we also have Chinese sport shoes, clothes and all that. So I think it all boils down to how do we support our local retail sector.
Sure.
But we're living in a country where nowadays you can get imported furniture, you can get imported utensils that are Mitumba. Right? So what the danger really here is for the country is that what will we be left to manufacture if everything we are using that is affordable and quality is going to be imported from a rich old lady's estate, and you see, that's where you get the best seats. It's not from a rich old man. We don't buy good chairs.
Okay.
Yes. So, but seriously, you're going to get it from this lady's estate. She was worth a couple of millions. She's going to give you one of those state house looking like chairs, and you're going to buy each of them at 6,000 shillings. So why would you go buy from the local guy at Gong Road who's building the same chairs? The thing that is in danger here is not the consumer. It is not even the person who's importing or selling. The thing that is in danger here is Kenyan industry and even the desire to invest in Kenyan industry.
I get it, yeah. Sorry.
Because when you build an industry, all those costs, by the time you are done, your ROI is going to come in 20 years if you are lucky. in 20 years. Then you're looking at someone else who's going to import those things and get an ROI in 3 months.
This is the thing.
Yes.
That when we look at these areas where these clothes come from, for Kenya, I think the largest mitumba providers are the US and the UK.
Yes.
Right? Maybe just a little bit coming out of France, but mostly the UK and the US. But this is the thing, that in these countries, what we are calling mitumba in Kenya is called thrift in those countries. They do have thrift shops because they are second-hand items that people can then go and purchase. However, they have created a balance. You see the gap that you talk about that Kenya is exporting for?
Yeah.
That is your normal shop.
Yes.
If you were here in Kenya, it's like we make noise about, we can't call it, but we make noise about certain shops here, but in South Africa, it's the common man who shops in those shops.
Like Woolies, for example.
I didn't want to say, but it's the common man's shop. The gap that you talk about, even the Nike that you talk about, everybody and their uncle is walking around the US wearing it. But where are those clothes being done? They're being done here and then they're exported. My thing is that until and unless we are ready to have serious conversations, and not just conversations, but towards implementation and action and clicking in and engaging, to go towards standardization, to go towards a market protectionism and all of that, until you are actually ready to do it, guess what? Don't even start talking about the market suffering. Don't talk about not striking a proper balance and saying we should not be wearing other people's clothes. Fix the thing, because right here you have textiles that are being manufactured, that are being sent to the United States for their everyday man who are wearing these jeans and t-shirts. It's coming from here. So there is something that you're doing right. There is something that is happening. Why can that something that is happening then not be translated to the place whereby you can have somebody in the place where Dennis is going to pick his Uduma number?
Yes.
Buying those jeans
I'm not going to
for 200 shillings. For 200 shillings. Why? Why? And that's the thing. Because we refuse to implement. The plans are there. We refuse to take them and turn them into action. So until you're ready to do that, imagine, guess India, what? Buy mitumba.
In India before 2008, they also had a similar issue. But then they had to protect the local textile industry over the influx of everything else that was imported as second-hand clothes.
Yeah.
So this is what they did, and it's a very simple plan. So what they did is, you have a brand in the US or France or in the UK, you want to bring your clothes into the country, open a plant in the country, do it from here. So when you do it from here, you're going to actually create job opportunities. Then you're going to use, if not locally produced materials.
Yes.
So you bring down the cost. So you serve the population within the country. But here's a situation where if you say you're banning mitumba, what is our option?
That's it.
It's not tenable. At the moment, it's not.
It isn't.
Because we don't have structures that have been put in place to make sure that you're protecting the local manufacturers, and they don't have capacity. Today, if you shut down the mitumba business, the reality is simple. We don't have capacity to produce enough. We may argue we do, but the quality is another question altogether.
Big time.
Yeah.
You know, there's also the question of rules of origin. This is an import-export term. But the issue of rules of origin is that Kenya does not produce enough textile, even for our EPZs, both synthetic and natural fabrics. And therefore, much of our fabric is already imported from outside Kenya. That then prohibits the costs of the final product in this country, because even when you wear what is popularly known as kitenge, it's not made here. Much of our kitenge material is made in China. So there's got to be a thinking of the whole process. Can we create an industry for creating synthetic fabrics, for example, in this country? Can we be able then to supply our local fashion designers with the right amount of fabric? And then can we scale them up to the scale where they're able to create this shirt that everyone likes, but is distributed throughout the country? Because what happens in this country is many a fashion label, and we have a few, when they create something, they create what? 100 of them, and then someone in Roysambu and someone in Kisumu, and where you're going to pick your huduma number, want the same cloth and they can't have it. So what is by force is that some guy in that village needs to create a copy of it, and then the quality goes down. So the ability to mass produce is also a key inhibitor to how much our fashion designers can actually grow. Finally, it is also a question of us losing our culture. The more mitumba we do, the less of our creativity is in what we wear.
It's true. It's one of those things you're gonna. Unfortunately, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Yep.
Without the implementation of some of these things that we are talking about, until you decide this is the direction that we actually want to go, we're going to continue to have this thing. It's, which came first, chicken or the egg? Do you say create your own industry, or do you say, well, now that they're gone, create the industry? Which one do you do?
Someone is saying, let's play to our strengths. Leave clothes to Bangladesh and those other countries. Let's do leather and leather shoes. We can engage in cotton farming. Send the cotton to these countries.
Let them make.
True. And Kenya has the third largest herd of animals in Africa. Nigeria is first, Botswana is second.
Thanks. It's true. I mean, we talk about Hollandaise is one of the fabric that we use in Nigeria. Where is it made?
Yeah.
It's made in Holland.
Yes.
So those are some of the things that we talk about, some of the conversations that we have. It's a big one, still to be discussed even as we move along. It's getting us to the place now where we will have our Healthy Friday conversation. And today we are looking into issues around those of us who wear glasses, who have some kind of vision impairment, and those are around the conversations that we will be having today. Two gentlemen are in the studio with us, and as we start that conversation, we're saying a big hello to Ashihundu Kiayumbi, who is a general manager, Royal Eye and Ear Hospital in Parklands, and Dr. Abdulalim Tolba, who is a consultant ophthalmologist and an Egyptian professor. Gentlemen, good morning to both of you.
Good morning to you.
Karibu sana.
Santi.
We are glad that you're here. We waited for you, but we're glad that you made it all the same. These are the hot seats of the Situation Room. This morning, of course, being Friday, Healthy Friday, takes us now. We're looking into issues around error of refraction, defective vision, and really what this actually means. Sometimes we say, well, I can't see, perhaps I need glasses. We're going to go a little bit deeper into all of this today and see what that looks like. So very quickly, one thing that we do when we welcome you to the show is that we say we have a proverb that comes from a different African country every week. Today, as we end the week, Mark is going to tell you where that proverb is from, and we would like you to give your simple interpretation of the same. Is that all right?
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Well, a good morning to you, gentlemen.
Good morning to you.
I am glad because this room is 3 out of 5 wear glasses. So, so when you look at your map, there's a country called Libya at the top of Africa.
Yes.
Now these people wear turbans, right? So there is a saying that says, where the turban moves, there moves the territory. Where the turban moves, there moves the territory. Yes. What's your interpretation?
Good morning. As he has said, where the turban moves the territory. This means that leadership, the turban is a sign of leadership. Yes. So where the turban moves, that's where the leadership moves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And everybody else follows.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. What about you, Doc?
Your interpretation?
How would you interpret that?
Turban moves what?
Where the turban
Where
moves,
the turban moves, there moves the territory. How would you interpret that? What do you think about that saying?
The explanation of the
Yes.
Yes.
How would you explain that?
No, not even explain. How do you understand it, feel it? What does it express to you? There's no right answer, by the way.
Yeah.
Don't
Your
be stuck.
interpretation is absolutely correct.
Yes, so in turban moves, the leadership follow.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where the turban moves the leadership,
Yes.
then the territory follows.
Yes.
Well, that's what we look at, just taking turban as a form of symbolism. So we're getting into a conversation, obviously, about vision this morning on our Healthy Friday conversation.
Yes.
And with both of you here, we'll just get a little bit more understanding about what this is all about. And we're going to, bring in issues that a lot of us sometimes hear, say, and are not really sure what we're dealing with. First of all, let's start with the era of refraction.
Yes.
First of all, what is refraction? What does that mean from a descriptive point of view? We'll start with you, Dr.
Yes. I can start that the function of the eye is to vision.
Mm-hmm.
So to see anything, there is rays coming from this object and coming to the eye, refracted through or collected through two lenses in the eye.
Mm-hmm.
This is the cornea and this is the crystalline lens. The rays coming from the object collecting together to meet at a point at the retina. This is the normal position or the normal condition. Diminution of vision or decreased vision may caused by either diseases in the eye or a defect in these two lenses. Any defect in these two lenses causing what is called error of refraction.
Okay.
That's to say there is a specific bulging of the cornea or curvature of the cornea and also of the crystalline lens. If this curvature defective or affected by any disease, so the rays coming from the object not meeting at a point on the retina, either in front of the retina, which is called myopia or nearsighted vision, or hypermetropia behind the eye like myself, or not collecting at a point, but in multiple points. So it's called no point or astigma, no point. Okay. This is astigmatism. So myopia, hypermetropia, astigmatism is one types of errors of refraction.
Can we just take that slowly? Let's start with myopia.
Yes.
Which I know very well because I suffer
because
from
you
it.
are myopic. Yes.
But so that's nearsightedness.
Yes.
Now you've used some fancy scientific terms.
Yes.
But if we were to put it in layman's terms, when you talk about the light hitting the retina, that it is short.
Yes.
So I can only see things that are near.
Yes.
I cannot see things that are?
Yes.
Okay.
Because nearsighted vision is the person who can see near vision, near object. To see far is a difficult because rays coming from far is collecting in a point away from the retina, in front of the retina. For this reason, we find a solution, either putting a glass to making the rays passing behind to collect on the retina, or another solution by a contact lens or a refractive surgery, either surgery over the cornea or surgery over the crystalline lens. These are the procedures, either glasses, contact lens, or a refractive surgery over the cornea or refractive surgery over the lens, which is called LASIK or other modalities of the correction of vision.
Okay. Before we go to corrective measures for each of these errors, what was the next one that you talked about after nearsightedness?
We can speak about hypermetropia, farsighted vision, astigmatism.
So farsighted vision is when you cannot see things that are near, but you can only see things that are far.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then what was the other one that you spoke about? Astigmatism.
Astigmatism is different curvature of the cornea, so the rays not collecting in a point, but in a multiple points. And the astigmatism is stigma a point, not collecting in a point. It is astigmatism.
Okay.
And the translation in Arabic, la nuqatiyya. It is not a point. It is in a multiple points. For this reason, astigmatism find a difficult, either in near or in far.
Okay.
And causing a headache during his work or calculations or study.
So there's no focus in vision?
Yes, not focusing on a point.
Can you have nearsightedness or farsightedness coupled with astigmatism?
Astigmatism is a coupled, either nearsighted astigmatism or farsighted astigmatism also. Or a combined or mixed.
Okay.
There are many types.
All right.
How does one get to know? Because it took me years to discover that I had astigmatism.
Yes.
And you guys are saying that you're bringing all this new knowledge into the field and things like that. How people listening today who find it hard to read and they've gone to the opticians, as Kenyans usually do, and then you get a pair of glasses, then you're told 0.5 plus minus whatever.
Yes.
How do you know that you've got a more complicated refractive problem?
Yes.
Either can
This is during his work, or during student is studying, or during his presence in the class. He can't see well in the board. He can't study well. He can't find the figures in a good manner, or complaining of headache or blurring of vision. So he asking about a solution for this, either a defective vision or a headache or blurring during reading or writing or studying. So he go to the optometrist or the ophthalmologist to searching about a solution for this problem or this issue.
So how easy is that now?
It is very easy.
Okay.
Because there are many solutions. If you go to the optometrist or the ophthalmologist, he can diagnose that the cause of defective vision not related to a disease, but related to a defect in the refraction. So he will find a solution for him, depend on the person. There are different modalities, depend on the person himself. Some person is suitable for him the glasses. Another practice sport, he can't wear the glasses during sport.
Exactly.
So he want another solution, like a contact lens. Another person has a allergy from the contact lens, so he's searching from another solution like LASIK or excimer laser surgery. Another person have a very high myopia, unsuitable to do LASIK for him. We can doing implantation of intraocular lens inside the eye and finding a solution. So depend on the personnel, his job, his characteristic, his complaint, and his age also, and the degree of error he has. We can decide the best solution for him.
So you just said something pretty fast there, that you can put another lens in the eye.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, how is that?
The eye has, as I said, two lenses. The anterior part is the cornea, and to consider the lens, and his crystalline lens. If this person has a very high myopia and can't be corrected by LASIK, which is limited now to around -7, -8, and he has -15 or -20, we can inserting another lens just in front his crystalline lens to correcting this. So instead of making a surgery over the cornea and not correcting this high error of myopia, so we can not touching the cornea at all, but inserting intraocular lens inside the eye for correction of these high myopic patients.
And this is for all three conditions, astigmatism.
Yes, especially for the high myopia. Especially for the high myopia. But
Ashim, but do we see a lot of people coming into the facility with errors in refraction, vision problems? Are we seeing that number increasing over time?
Yes, the numbers are increasing over time, and you find that even some of us, like me, who doesn't have glasses, maybe have not just gone for the consultation with an optom or the ophthalmologist, but the numbers are increasing even in schools, because as we are we are running a program called camps. We are doing camps, medical camps, in villages, in estates, in schools, and from these camps we are discovering that majority of people have these issues, but now they are not addressed because maybe it's out of ignorance, or maybe they don't know what to do.
Okay.
I have a question, because this almost feels like a consultation. Because I don't know whether I have an eye problem, to be honest. I spend so much time on the computer, many hours, and lately I'm discovering, I used to see old people hold their phone like this.
Yes.
And I'm like, why do you pull it away?
Yeah.
Yes.
So now I'm discovering if I put my phone like this, I actually can't read. If I put it like that, then I can read.
yes.
Do I have a problem?
Oh, Dennis.
Poor. It's like free consultation. Go pick.
No, this is not a problem. This is what is called presbyopia. Normally, each person until 40, he can see well for far and for near. Because there is accommodation, like in the camera, you can focus on a far object and for a near object. When you focus on a near object, you're changing the focus for the camera. And this is what's occurred automatically in the human being until 40. After 40, there is solidification of the lens. To focusing the lens rapidly, automatically, to see the near vision, it is a difficult. So we must adding an extra lens in front of the eye after 40, 45. This is what is called near glasses vision. For this person, after 42 years, he can see well for far and he can read everything. When he want to see a near object, either he making things just away or putting a near glasses to see well.
You know what? Let me shake your hand. You've explained it. I turned 40 and that's when I discovered I have that issue. It's just said 40. So then, my next question is, it's the first time I've heard the term refractive error. So how many types are there? And you talked about the medical camps and you've said you're going to schools. How many, which ones are common in Kenya?
The majority is myopia and astigmatism. Presbyopia, which occurred after 42 years, this is a normal physiological condition occurring in all person. You find all person above 40 or 45, if he want to see well reading, he can precede the object or in a bright light or adding the reading glass. So the majority in the schools is myopia and astigmatism. But for high people, old people, is the presbyopia, which needing the near reading glass.
Okay. I want to take a break and then we're going to come back and talk that, because we're seeing in schools, like Ashindo has said, so are we seeing younger and younger refractive errors? And then because we're seeing children 4, 5, 6 years old wearing glasses, and if that's the case, is there something that's happening? Can we say that there's something in the air, or are they born with it? And we'll start to look at some of those issues as we come. A Healthy Friday conversation is around refractive errors and how that vision essentially can be sorted out. We'll come back after this break and continue with that conversation at 27 minutes to 8. Cloudy conditions in Nairobi at 15. It's sunny at 14 in Nakuru and 15 and sunny in Nyeri. Eldoret is sunny at 13 with sunny conditions at 25 in Mombasa. It's 26 and sunny in Malindi and sunny at 19 in Kisumu. 17 and sunny in Kakamega, while sunny at 21 in Kampala. Partly sunny at 24 in Dar es Salaam, while it's partly cloudy in Johannesburg at 11. Mogadishu is sunny at 27 with cloudy conditions at 17 in Addis Ababa. It's partly cloudy at 27 in Lagos with cloudy conditions at 24 in Kinshasa. All right, getting into more of a busy morning on the Thika Superhighway. Traffic is coming in from the Allsops Junction. It's going to take you out to the city at a bumper-to-bumper state. It's also busy on Kiambu Road this morning, and we're looking at traffic heavy coming in on Limuru Road through towards Muthaiga Square on the other side. Maybe find its way back through towards Parklands on the western side. There is traffic on Kangunda Road today coming in all the way from Jiro. It's snaking its way along through towards Outer Ring, and there's traffic on the eastern bypass going towards North Airport Road. Very, very busy on Outer Ring as well. Through towards the Cabanas interchange is where we'll see the most of it for now. All right, so let's see what happens as we come out of it. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room. Our Healthy Friday conversation this morning is around refractive errors, and we're looking at essentially fixing vision when you have those particular issues. The areas around ophthalmology discussed with us this morning with Ashiundu Kayumbi and Dr. Abdel Lalim Tolba. We went to the break and we're asking questions about now a younger population seems to have issues with vision. Yes. Which was not the case before. I remember being in first grade wearing glasses, and I think I was the only one for a long time.
Yes.
And now we see many, many more younger children wearing glasses. Is there something in the environment? Is there something going on? Are we having more children born with vision errors? What's happening?
This is what's called congenital condition.
Okay.
This is one type of congenital myopia. Meaning that the parents were myopic, so the children, some of them will be myopic. Mm-hmm. And this type, which is called congenital myopia or congenital error of refraction. So the child born with the myopia, and with the time, the myopia increases with time, starting, for example, by -2, -3, but with the time, there is increasing in the degree of myopia.
Can you stop it?
Sometimes it is at certain age, it reaching to a stable level. Around 15, 16 years old, it stopped to a limit. But sometimes there are another type, which is called the malignant myopia, which will increasing to a higher level, which indicating a very high myopic condition.
Okay, so then how do you see the manifestation of that? Because, I mean, I'll use myself as an example. Sometimes it's the example that makes sense.
Yes.
That from the age of 8, by the time I was turning 9, every year I had to go see my doctor.
Yes.
And I got new glasses every year because I needed a higher power to then be able to see. And this happened maybe every year until about 18.
Yes.
But then after that, it became maybe 3-4 years before I started, before I'd need to change the power.
Yes.
And then by the time I got to 25, maybe I would just go in for an eye checkup, but wouldn't have to change the power of the lens.
Yes.
Until much older, then I needed to maybe then make sure that you were seeing properly. Is this what you're talking about?
Yes. This is the congenital myopia, which increasing with age. And usually with the first years, there is a progression in the myopia. Every year, there is a change until reaching the age of stability. Stabilizations around 19, 20 years old. Around 20 years old, there is a stabilization of vision. And this is the age which we decide to do LASIK. Mm-hmm. Because we are sure that the vision is stable now. And this is the time to enter to doing LASIK. Mm. If we do LASIK, for example, before at 15 or 16, yes, we will correct. But after that, because the vision is still unstable, there is some regression of vision, which he need after LASIK, even after LASIK. If done LASIK early, he need glasses after that. So it is better to wait until stabilization of vision, which will be around 20 years old.
Okay.
Perhaps a question for you, Wanajim. The cost of correcting these errors, are they covered by SHA if does insurance cover it? This LASIK surgery that is being mentioned, is it affordable? Is it within reach of the average Kenyan?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Like we said earlier, we are Royal Eye and Ear Hospital. We are in Parklands, and our specialties are eye and ear. I go to your question now. You asked about if we are doing these corrective surgeries. Yes, we do corrective surgeries, and these corrective surgeries are covered by SHA. Yes.
Okay. And other insurances, and are they affordable?
We have other private insurances that cover these surgeries. So any surgery is covered in a hospital either by SHA or by private insurances or by cash.
Okay.
Yes.
My question is, because Undo has been talking about children. I know someone who was actually a 2-year-old, and I see the challenges. My question is, what are the early signs for a parent when they have a child? And I have to read because I'm trying to remember refractive error. What are the early signs for a child? For an adult, there's a way you can go for consultation and you can tell. But you have a child, you're not too sure what signs to look for. What are those early signs?
Early signs is a defect in seeing things or screwing his eye to see things. If I go to the school and looking to the student and seeing one student or some of them screwing his eye to see what is written on the board, this is one sign of he can't see well. So he wanted to decrease the light entering into the eye to be sharper vision.
Yeah.
This is one sign. Or when you introduce something to him, he nearing the object toward his eye. This is signs. Either defective in writing, not seeing well over the board, either screwing his eye or coming the object just near to his eye. This is a sign.
Okay.
For this reason, if parents see these signs, he must direct to the ophthalmologist to diagnose the case and diagnose what the child have. Either error or a disease. Yes.
Okay. So one thing that we hear, I don't know if it's in my house. Parents used to say it all the time, and I don't know if it's true, but you're here to tell us. They would say, well, don't sit too close to the TV because it will spoil your eyes. Yes. Without realizing that at that point, I was sitting so close to the TV because I couldn't see the thing. Yes. But we now hear it that don't hold the screen too close, it's going to ruin your eyes. Yes. Or don't sit too close to the TV, it's going to ruin your eyes. Is there a connection between lights, computers, now we're using them all the time, gadgets, yes, that would then affect the refraction? Yes. Is there a connection?
Really, there is no connection between a refraction and seeing the television.
Okay.
But sometimes there is an allergy from the rays. And also, the eye is a ball, which is controlled by a group of muscles. During seeing something, these muscles are contracted all the time. And any muscle like our arm muscles, with a long time contracting, there is a fatigue. So, after a longer time of reading or studying, there is a contraction in the muscles. So what occurring, what is seeing, running of letters. You see well, but sometimes the letters are running in front of you. You're not concentrating well because of the fatigue of the muscles of the eye, which is contracted for a longer time. For this reason, we usually advise the student, he can study for 1 hour, 2 hours, and taking a rest for 5 minutes. These 5 minutes rest, giving a rest for the muscles of the eye, and he can continue for another 2 or 3 hours.
Okay, so that's good news to know that watching TV didn't ruin our eyes.
Exactly, you don't know what you've done. I mean, I'm feeling guilty.
Because we were accused of watching too much TV because I got my glasses when I was, 10 years old?
I've always believed it until 2 seconds.
Exactly.
Yes.
I need to send my mom a message.
Stop disciplining your children for wrong things. Yeah. What other myths exist about eyesight that need to be dispelled? Because we live in Africa. There are lots of things that are traditional and some that are based on technology. Phones, for example, are a big thing. And then you are told you need to buy spectacles with Blu-ray protection, and these are much, much better than your run-of-the-mill spectacles. Then there's that one they call what? Chrono what?
Yeah.
There's a chrono thing.
Photochromatic.
Yes. So do we need this essentially, or are these just sales terms?
Some person has what is called photophobia. He can't look to the light well, or the rays of light affecting his eye.
Yes.
So in these conditions and on these persons, it is better to have a glass with a photo gray. Photo gray or photo brown. This will protect the eye from the rays, and not making the person exposed to the rays, especially have an allergy or a photophobia. This is what is occurring in many persons, especially with allergic patients.
Okay. Contact lenses.
Yes.
Also, like you said, a vision aid for refractive errors.
Yes.
What exactly is their function? What do they do?
Yes. What is done by glasses, it was occurred by the contact lens. The contact lens is correcting the error like what happened with the glass. If the patient has myopia or hyperopia or astigmatism, as we correcting with the glass outside the eye, we putting the contact lens directly over the cornea. The advantage is giving a wider field of vision because the glass you have a frame.
And there's some
affecting,
loss.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also more cosmetic in some patients. Some patients not accepting to wear a glass.
Yes.
They want to do nothing cosmetically good for him. So the contact lens is another modality correcting the vision instead of glasses, especially as I said in some patients practicing sport. He can't playing football with the glass, but with the contact lens it's okay.
Okay. And then what is the guarantee of success for surgery? It's a delicate thing, this eye.
Yes.
So how sure are you that you go into the surgery? You can only tell if it works when you come out.
It's true.
You know?
Or if it doesn't work.
If it doesn't work.
Because you don't come out.
So what's the guarantee of success?
Yes. For this reason, there is a pre-operative preparation for the patient. We must assess the patient before deciding surgery for him. There is a specific criteria must fulfill in the patient to do surgery. The myopia must have a limit. I can't do LASIK now in a patient has minus 15 or minus 20 because it is limited to minus 7, minus 8. And also, if the thickness of the cornea is a very, very thin, I can't do LASIK for him. So I must measure the thickness of the cornea and the curvature of the cornea. For this reason, before deciding surgery for a patient, I must fulfill all the criteria to be sure that the surgery will be successful for him.
Okay.
Either depend on the degree of error of refraction, the thickness of the cornea, or the age of the patient. It is not advisable to do LASIK for the patient before stabilization of vision, as I said, before 20.
Okay.
Because some students coming, I want to do LASIK like my daughter, or like my sister. I want to do LASIK like my... No, it is better to wait for LASIK surgery until stabilization of vision, which is around the 20.
So what exactly happens during LASIK? What do you do to the eye that would then correct the vision?
Yes. When I wanted to correct myopia, for example, by LASIK, the myopic patient has more curvature in the cornea. His cornea not with the normal curvature of a normal person, but the cornea is slightly bulging in front. What happened by LASIK is using excimer laser for doing ablation of the cornea. We doing English, flattening of the cornea. Flattening of the cornea. And instead of the cornea is slightly bulging, we taking part of the cornea, very minimal microns from the cornea, so causing flattening of the cornea and returning the patient as if a normal person.
And how long?
With a normal curvature.
Okay.
If we do LASIK at 20s or after 20s, will be stable all over the life.
Okay.
Many patients, I did LASIK for them in Egypt after stabilization of vision. Until now, he is around 50 or 60. He is okay.
And it's fine. And how long does the surgery take?
10 minutes, 5 minutes.
5 minutes?
Yes.
And okay.
Yes.
So after the LASIK surgery, how long does it take for you to now be able to see properly?
We're asking the patient to stay during the day of LASIK and coming the next day to see him. During the first day, he is seeing well, but with a slight pain, slight blurring of vision. The second day, everything will be okay, as if he has his glasses in the eye.
Oh, okay.
Interesting.
Yes. Groovy.
Yes.
All right, 15 minutes. That's the maximum if you're having a bad day. The question I want to ask now is, what is the recommended fix as people are listening to us who wear glasses already or who are like Dennis going into their fourth decade, which he denied earlier today. But
I've already entered.
So the question is, what would you as a doctor tell someone that is the preferred and safest route to take? So those of us who wear glasses, is it safer or is it safer to actually just come in and do LASIK tomorrow so that when I appear on Monday, I'm a new man?
My advice for any person to consult his ophthalmologist to determine what is the best way for him for correction, either with glasses, either with contact lens, either with surgery. So the consultation of the ophthalmologist is the best way to know what you have and to know it is necessary to do something or your eye is perfect. Some people coming for checkup and I find the vision is 6.6, everything is okay, and they see perfect vision. I told him, your vision is a perfect, seeing you after 2 years as a checkup. So checkup can discover if the person having something error must be corrected or is a completely normal person.
All right. Connect for me the connection between headaches and eyesight.
Yes.
Because sometimes for people like I who wear glasses, I can wear certain glasses, same power, same whatever, and then I get headaches still. Well, I've had them ever since I was a kid. So how do you mitigate against the headache that is caused by natural I don't know whether it's attrition of the eye or whatever, but what's the connection and what's the solution?
Really, headache is a major complaint not related only to the eye but related to other specialties. As regarding the eye, we exclude all the causes of headache related to the eye. Either error of refraction, which we are speaking about, because the patient has error or defective vision. He tries by his eye muscles to see things well. This contraction of the muscles is the main cause of headache. Or sometimes headache related to other ophthalmic causes. All patients of glaucoma, especially one type is called closed angle glaucoma, the first complaint is headache. Or the patient with papilledema or other causes related to the brain affecting the fluid around the optic nerve. All these cases are causes related to ophthalmology. But sometimes that patient coming with headache and he imagines that the cause is the glasses or error of refraction. I discovered it's everything related to ophthalmology is okay. I asked him to go to another specialty like ENT. Sinusitis is a main cause of headache. Or anemia, I direct him to the physician to doing analysis. So we must exclude the causes of headache related to ophthalmology, or if the patient is completely free as regard ophthalmology, I can direct him to other causes of headache.
So at the Royal Eye and Ear Hospital, Ashundu, is anybody who comes in then is able to get the services they need when it comes to refractive errors? Is across board, would everybody then be able to access the right services?
Yeah, good morning again. At Royal Eye and Ear Hospital, like I've said, We specialize on eye and ear, and we have high-end machines to examine both eye and ear problems, and anybody across the board, be it from the low class and high-end, we see all types of patients.
Okay.
Yeah. We see all types of patients, and we also run a program we call CSR. CSR, last year we partnered with the Islamic Relief Canada chapter, where we did 400 free cataract surgeries for patients from across the counties.
Okay.
Yes.
So then also somebody can come and get their eye test if they needed glasses, if they needed contact lenses, all of that can be done right at the hospital?
Yes.
Okay.
All of that can be done at the hospital. We are open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's from Monday to Friday. Then on Saturday, we are open until 2 p.m. So anybody walking in, we have our consultants seated waiting for them.
Okay. So Doc, as folks age, how often should they be coming in for tests? Because things like cataracts, like Ashunda has just mentioned, come into play. Glaucoma also come into play. How often should we come in to have those looked at to avoid such?
We must advise the patient to come as a consultation, and any complaint related to vision, either diminution of vision or defective vision, he can consult his ophthalmologist. And it is better to do a revision every 2 years to be sure that nothing occur. But any complaint occurring during this time of consultation, he must ask his ophthalmologist about.
Okay. Another thing is for sunglasses, usually we wear them as a fashion statement and not really realizing the damage that the sun can actually cause to our eyes. Is there refractive loss or error that can come as a result of sun damage?
Really, the sun with the ultraviolet rays affecting the eye. And especially for many patients has allergy to ultraviolet rays, he can't withstand looking to the sunny places. It is advisable for these persons especially to wear an original sunglasses. This will abolish and avoid ultraviolet rays to enter to the eye and causing any damage.
All right. So even as we look, I mean, there are options for, what you can do, vision aids that you can have. Is it possible that you get to a place whereby there would be no remedy for the error that is presenting? Or is there always a remedy for any error rather that is presenting?
Any person coming and we discover whatever the error he has, we can find a solution of him. Either this error corrected with glasses, he can find the glasses in the optic. If he want to take a contact lens, we will ask for a contact lens for him. If he decide to do a refractive surgery, and as I said, he is suitable to doing refractive surgery, we can doing the investigation and the preparation for him to doing refractive surgery.
All right. It's been most enlightening. Thank you so much for being here this morning. One thing that we can't ever run away from in terms of, vision and more people being affected by it. So we want to thank both of you for being here on Healthy Friday this morning. Ashiundu Kayumbi is the General Manager at the Royal Eye and Ear Hospital in Parklands, and Dr. Abdelalim Toba is a consultant ophthalmologist and Egyptian eye professor. Thank you so much for being here this morning and sharing with us, looking into some of those issues. Very important that we do, I think, that we don't run away from some of these issues, but that we talk about them, and that always when there is help needed that we can find it. So thanks for being in the hot seats this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And that's been our Healthy Friday conversation. We come into more as we get past into the 8 o'clock hour, and in the hot seat, more conversations. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
Good morning. This is the News Wire. I'm Leah Obaga. Kenya has successfully obtained a $1.5 billion Eurobond, an equivalent to 193.9 billion shillings. The bond will also pay off a part of an existing debt that was due in 2027. The move comes as Kenya works to balance development spending with sustainable borrowing levels. The restructuring is expected to give Kenya crucial breathing room while maintaining access to international capital markets. According to the transaction advisors, that is Citibank and Standard Bank, the market has shown strong investor demand, which allowed Kenya to tighten pricing and increase the bond size, signalling robust market confidence. Lands Cabinet Secretary Alice Wahome has said the ministry needs 35 billion shillings to resolve land and boundary disputes witnessed in various parts of the country. Speaking in Nairobi, Wahome said the ministry is demarcating boundaries and closely monitoring some land dispute cases.
That we need 35 billion to start with. But you see also, the budget making, the process is within a certain revenue script or book. With that, you have to look at all the state departments, and therefore you may have a request for 35 billion, and even making that request makes no sense because you will not even, it's just not available.
Wahome also said the government is investigating cases where landowners have emerged and seized public land in different parts of the country.
Some of the problems are created, human created. They are created by people who are misusing, people who are desperate. And that's how you find that people are getting into land to pay little money, land that is not available. And that's what has happened a lot in the coast region. People get into somebody's land, there are a group of people who are crooks. Then they start selling land for 15,000 shillings, 20,000 shillings. But this land, by all purposes, belongs to person A.
This comes as the 2025-2026 budget seeks to allocate 1.8 billion shillings for the ministry, a figure Wahome said was too low. Democracy Citizens Party Deputy Leader Cleophas Malala says the party was formed after the ruling party began to ignore the opinions of Kenyans on various policies. Speaking in an interview with KTN News, Malala claims that after realizing that its leader, Rigathi Gachagua, collaborated with other leaders to form a party that would allow Kenyans to be heard.
The second deputy president of the Republic of Kenya was impeached because he tried to advise his boss to listen to the ground, but his boss was adamant. I was removed from office because I tried to advise my former party leader to listen to the people, but he was adamant, and therefore we said, if that is the rallying call that will bind us together, then we will move with Kenyans who want to believe in that school of thought.
Malala has also dismissed claims that the party is tribal, as raised by some individuals in Kenya Kwanza, saying that Gachagua has collaborated or partnered with other party leaders of the likes of Martha Karua, Eugene Wamalwa, Kalonzo Musyoka, as well as Jubilee leaders as a sign of national unity.
This narrative of saying that we are pushing for a one-party dominance in Mount Kenya, I think is a narrative trying to be propagated by our opponents so that we divide the opposition. We want to say that the opposition is intact. We know the tactics that they are using, but we are saying we are focused to bring change in this political ecosystem.
And in the international scene, Palestinian rescuers reported more than 100 people killed on Thursday in Israeli strikes on blockaded Gaza, where a US-backed organization said it intends to begin distributing aid by the end of the month. Aid to Gaza has been cut off since March 2nd, a tactic Israel has said is intended to force concessions from Hamas, but the group insisted on Thursday that the restoration of humanitarian assistance to the war-ravaged territory was the minimum requirement for talks. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
Okay, we still are in traffic hour this morning, still looking pretty busy, keeping an eye on all of this. Coming off a thicker superhighway, traffic is there, and also the Eastern Bypass as you get over the drift, coming in traffic from Outer Ring and outbound on Outer Ring as well. Into the city, Uhuru Highway, then from the Nyayo Stadium roundabout is quite busy, and we're looking at traffic also. Thicker superhighway coming in from Survey, busy as well, touching on Kiambu Road and coming in from Gong Road, Wayaki Way, in from Westlands. All of this still doing the thing this morning, and Langata Road is starting to pile up. We'll talk and keep things moving. SpiceFM, KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room. It's 6 minutes after 8 o'clock, and we're into the third hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. This is the Situation Room, rounding out the week on Friday, the 16th of May. And we go into another realm of conversations this hour. And Ndu, Dennis and Mark with you. And as we do that, a reminder that, things that we speak about happening in our society, happening in our communities, are necessary for us to do so. And our live streams are up on Facebook, on YouTube, and on X. And our audience on KTN, Karibu Sana. Influencing, content creation, we're talking about its future, but I think it's also going to give us an opportunity to talk about its present and where it came from. Joining us in that conversation this morning is Joel Rao. He is the co-CEO of Dentsu. He'll tell us what that's all about, but he's here all the same. Joel, good morning.
Good morning, Drew. How are you?
I am well. How are you doing?
Very fine.
Good. You just reminded me that we had a conversation five years ago.
To the date, yeah.
Yeah, when the world was locked down.
When that was our new normal.
Yes. And it's interesting because we're talking about a new normal today, whereby we see the Internet of Things being used for business, for, advertisement, for convincing, for influencing, really. And that's the world that we step into today. So welcome to the hot seat.
Thank you.
Now in person. Let's welcome you properly, shall we? We go to the African continent. We are here. Every week we go to a different country. Mark is going to tell you the country that we are in today, rather this week. He'll share today's proverb with you, and then you'll interpret that for us. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Okay.
You said Internet of Things. I remembered I was once in a meeting, and there was a guy in that meeting called IoT. And then the meeting was about the Internet of Things. So I needed to know whether they were talking to IoT, the guy, or IoT, the Internet of Things.
Well, it could have been both, Mark. Take it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So Libya is where we are at.
Yep.
I don't know what you know about Libya.
The former president,
Muammar Gaddafi. As in, he was the tourist attraction. He went to Libya.
I was a visionary, by the way.
You went to see. Well, Muammar Gaddafi, rest in peace. The proverb that he must have approved is where the turban moves, there moves the territory. Where the turban moves, there moves the territory.
Where the turban moves, there moves the territory. I'd imagine culturally, having seen themselves as part of that Arab community, there was a lot of trade that was going on, and I think it was meant to showcase that where they set their sights on, then they will move as a people. I think if I was to bring that home, in my understanding is, where you decide to set your sight on, you go for it in that way. That's how I'd imagine it, having heard the proverb for the first time.
Okay. Do not worry.
Yeah.
Everyone here has heard it for the first time today. and your interpretation is correct.
Okay.
It is your interpretation. Yeah. To quote one famous city. So you're correct.
Indeed.
Yeah.
It is yours, so you can't be wrong, can you? Well, certain things that you can or cannot be wrong about, and that helps us get into our conversation this hour. Influencing, content creation seems to be the thing for that everybody's saying, well, you know what you can do is that let me create a YouTube channel or let me create a TikTok account and let me start putting my content out there, and maybe somebody is going to be dazzled by my approach and then start paying me. It seems to have caught the world like wildfire at some point, and everybody was an influencer, everybody was a content creator. Reintroduce us to this world. What is it about? Where did we start whereby now people could influence?
I mean, surprisingly, influence has actually been with us from time immemorial. But I think what really brought it to the forefront, I think, was the Western influence, especially in the US, when the Kardashians came to the picture. And then suddenly $1 million companies were created based off of the content that they created and the shows that they had, and brands have been doing it in the past. I remember growing up. I don't know whether you guys remember Michael Power.
Yes.
Guinness,
yes.
And if you ever thought about Michael Power, you always knew Guinness, and it sort of drove that influence, from an advertising, point of view. Fast forward, you had your brand ambassadors coming in, and you'd have just one key figure who would actually represent a brand's truth, right? That has now evolved because social media came into play. And when social media came into play, and referencing my example of the Kardashians, what ended up happening was that we got to experience what I refer to as two-way communication. So Web 1.0 was where you could go to the web and you read everything that you have, but you never got to respond to what you have. Then Web 2.0 came with social media, whereby you see content, but then you can respond. So there's a two-way communication. And that's really where the emergence of the creator came about. And a whole new economy has emerged out of it, whereby people with a following, people with a community, and not just any community, an engaged community for that matter, can now have a opportunity to monetize that community, through brand advertising. So it's just moved away from the traditional sense. And based on the question that you've asked, it's influence suddenly now becomes the new currency of this new creative economy that we have. And so that's really how it has come about.
Interestingly, I'm a brand ambassador.
There you go.
So I feel what it's
brand ambassador of what?
Of what?
Of Funded Next, which is a proprietary trading firm.
Okay.
So I'm actually going to South Africa end of this month to receive an award on their behalf because I represent them in the continent.
Okay.
Sorry, don't be angry.
I was just saying.
Guys, bye. We are sorry.
I'm a brand ambassador too. For the Bichachis.
Please, Joe, don't worry too much about these people. But isn't that the thing? I mean, understanding that essentially what you do now, you're being your everything, then would give you the opportunity to represent something or someone or product, service kind of thing. But the thing is that as it started, but as it came more realized as a way of then being able to do business, everybody and their pet dog Rufus then
wanted to jump on it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Did it water down the effect or the potency then of this thing, which would essentially be a fantastic tool?
I think one of the things that, has at least been very clear to us was that, yes, everyone has jumped in, but not everyone understands that it's not just about having a camera and just being able to speak to an audience, or build an audience for that matter, is as simple as that. It's actually a lot of hard work, and there are tools, there's knowledge that is required for you to have. These different channels have different algorithms, for example. So how do you create content that actually fits within these channels? It's also understanding what your audience wants at the end of the day. Dennis, I'm sure when you were starting off, you had to understand, why is it that people follow you online? What is it that they want from you? And then out of that, then you can create content that actually correlates to them. Same thing with this program. Like, there's a reason why every morning people tune in to listen to the guests who come in, and to all of you and your takes and your hot takes that you'd have. It's the same thing with everyone. As long as people need to understand that, then it becomes an easier way of going about it. But what ended up happening is that everyone and their dog Rufus joined the play. Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of everyone, I've realized that the most ascribed to career in Kenya today is content creator.
Yes.
And yes, we all create content. When you write on Facebook, you're creating content. When you dance on TikTok, you're creating content. But when does it switch from being a content creator into an actual career? Because especially on TikTok, and I know this is going to land me in a spot of trouble, but I like trouble. TikTok, I see a lot of people dancing. Not so many of them very well. Some they dance because, like Dennis, they're handsome, so people look at their handsomeness or beauty for that matter. TikTok. I said they're handsome.
The internet never forgets.
Not dance like you. Yeah. So,
Note, he did not say I'm not handsome. He said I don't dance. But anyway, moving on.
Yes. So the question is, when is content creation a career? When is it fun? And when do you know that you've broken that threshold? Because honestly, I was forced to get on TikTok because of a project I'm doing. I'd sworn I'm not doing any more social media additions. Then I got on TikTok and everybody's dancing, and 3/4 of them are not dancing well, and they're content creators. So I still don't get where the line is between the industry and Dennis shaking his wobbly legs.
Let me put it this way. Why do people go on social media? Why do people go on the internet? They go on the internet to be educated,
right,
and to be informed, to be entertained.
Yes,
right. And if content doesn't play one of those two roles, then why are we there? So to your point,
yes,
those people who are dancing are actually entertaining.
Yeah.
And
somebody's watching.
Yeah, somebody's watching. They're vibing.
He's watching.
Yeah. Do you know the most interesting content that's consumed is people eating? You just watch someone eating. It's a phenomenon.
Yeah, that's what I want to understand.
Yeah.
Because I think there's someone who made a record the other day, took $32,000 in earnings in a night from people watching her sleep, right? You need to... No, true story. It's true, right?
It's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ndu is looking at me like I'm making this stuff.
You're live streaming yourself sleeping.
Yeah.
I could do that.
It's better than waking up.
Start, we follow.
I know. Watch me sleep.
In fact, tomorrow morning, yes, because we'll not be here. The three of us will do that.
We could do that actually. Ednah, we could make something out of that.
Yeah, we should.
And see how far it would go.
Yeah, explain that to me. What is that phenomenon? It does not make sense. I come from the time we used to take 3 years to watch a movie because Rambo came out in 1982 and we watched it in 1986.
There you go.
And things like that. Now, someone will pay to watch someone sleep.
Or Mark eats chicken.
Kanyari preach.
Yeah. Or Mark eats chicken.
That's another one I need to know.
Human beings we're peculiar. Our interests are different. What you may find entertaining is not what I may find entertaining. For example, would you go and watch someone sleep? Would you pay to watch someone sleep?
That's what... Listen, my brother, the beauty about turning 40, which is the theme of today, not only do we stop seeing,
keep it moving,
but not only do we, but we also stop understanding recent phenomenon.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's a whole genre of music which, when they start singing nowadays, I understand nothing from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
How is that? Like, explain to me the psychological, social interaction that happens there.
I cannot begin to start explaining the psychological and social. I will be lying if I said I would understand that aspect. What I can tell you is that people's interests are evolving.
Yes.
The same way taste in music is evolving. The same way what you used to watch in 1986 is not what is being consumed today. You waited to watch a 3-hour movie. Today people are consuming soaps in 8 minutes segments on social media. Things change.
Things do
Interests change. And that's the beauty of the human mind. It's dynamic. It's not what you'd expect it to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's the phenomena that creators are coming onto and actually, what we as a company decided to also do,
So that's interesting that you say that. So
one more question on the same thing.
Yeah.
What is ASMR?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to know.
You can find. I'm sure we can look that up and see exactly what it means. It's a good feeling that you get just from I guess watching things, listening to things.
Yeah, and things that are just new.
That's different. You enjoy the sounds of things. It's like me and ASMR and this thing that I found where this guy who's coloring stencils with 3 different colors, and I can just watch it for hours.
There you go.
It's ridiculous.
And you find it interesting.
I do. Or a lady peeling garlic with something, and it's just interesting. And so there was a time when the whole idea of DJing hit the market, right? And everybody wanted to be a DJ. Thank you, Mr. DJ. Anyway, and so there was a DJing school. There was a most famous one, and they opened a school for DJs, and everybody then, went and learned this thing, how to do it properly. And you had quite some of the best DJs coming out of those trainings. Now, the talk of the town is that there's a Dentsu School of Influence. And is it the same lines where that we teach? What are we doing here exactly? Teaching folks to hone their skills? How?
Yeah. So, and that's a very great question. So, the Dentsu School of Influence is it's a sort of love letter to Kenya's creative future, if I was to artistically put it in that sense. I've mentioned that influence is a new currency in this creative economy. And what we found out as a business, Dentsu is for those of you who may not know, Dentsu is actually an advertising and marketing company, the world's largest communications company, and one of the big ones in Kenya now. We have been working with quite a number of brands, and obviously creators, influencer marketing has been a conversation that we've had in a lot of boardrooms. What we realized is that people who started influencer marketing back then and built their communities sort of understood how to work with brands, how to create content, what content is suited for which platform. And as we went along, that set was a very small set. As we went along, everyone started to jump on. The young kids in university started to jump onto this trend. And we just got to realize the more we worked with what we refer to as nano influencers, the smaller, creators, with the smaller communities compared to the others who have millions, didn't necessarily have that understanding. And there's a very massive gap that we noted in that market. And so for us, what we wanted to do is we wanted to bring together the knowledge that we had in advertising, the best of platform understanding with, TikTok, Meta, Snapchat, all these platforms that are out here that people are creating content on, as well as brands. And create a sort of environment where we can accelerate these young people's understanding and knowledge base and skills on creating this content. So because social media has democratized quite a lot of these things, we felt it was important for this same knowledge to also be democratized, to be just put it out there so that they understand. And that's really the basis of where the school was created.
Okay. So, what is it? Folks come, join for a while, learn some of these things.
Yes.
Do they graduate, get a certificate? Streamlined, standardized by whom?
Good question. So, the process that we went through was a very rigorous one. So, when we launched the school back in February, it was an open invitation for people to actually apply to the school. And we had over 1,000 applicants coming in. And we only could take up 100. So we actually streamlined it to 300. Of the 1,000 applicants, we had certain criteria. You need to have at least 1,000 plus people who follow you on your Instagram, on your TikTok. The other thing is that you need to have also you have to be a consistent content creator. And obviously, content that's also, PG. And then as long as you can be able to work with a brand, I think those are some of the things that we can actually be able to put in place. The other thing that was really important for us to also look at is your ability to engage with your community. What ended up happening was that out of the 1,000 who applied, we shortlisted 300. And so we needed to cut that down further. So we had another recruitment sort of interview session with them, whereby I don't know, you guys are in media, you receive a lot of PR packages, you're invited to go and attend events, and in return you amplify. So we sort of mimicked that setup, worked with a few brand partners who created an event where they can actually, the 300 can actually come in, interact with each other, have fun, play games, listen to music, all in a bid to amplify that event. So that was for us to be able to shortlist that down to 100 people. Within that event, we looked at the content they created, and we said, okay, we have a cohort that we can actually work with, and out of the 300, we got the 100, who ended up then attending a 5-day intensive school. This 5-day program entailed brand partners coming in to teach people, first and foremost, to teach people about law, intellectual property law. So we had the very first session we had around was IP. The content you create is your own intellectual property. How you go around going about contracting in the right way, because again, these people have never experienced this sort of thing before working with brands. The next thing we did was talk about the wealth that you create out of this. How can you invest it? So we had a lot of partners coming in to talk about wealth creation, wealth management from a creator's space. And then we also had quite a number of partners coming in from the platform side. So we had all the big partners, Meta, TikTok, YouTube, coming in, talking about what sort of content works where, how can you take advantage of algorithms to be able to create the content that is needed. And more importantly, we also brought other established creators to also come in and talk about their own experiences, their own pitfalls. What are some of the mistakes that they made that these young people shouldn't make as they're on this journey. And then at the end of it all, they are actually issued with a certificate. What people do not know is that Dentsu, being an international company, the Dentsu School of Influence is not only running here in Kenya. We're running it in South Africa. It started off in Kenya, and it was, a brainchild here. It was immediately taken to South Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, and Spain. So those are the first 5 markets that we're looking at, with the hope of growing it across all the Dentsu offices around the world. Now, the beauty of this is that what my hope and dream, sitting as a leader within Dentsu, is to ensure that the creator who works here is actually exposed to the creator who has gone through the same experience with different cultural nuances in Lagos, in Cape Town, in Joburg, in Madrid, to be able to have this connected community of doing more. Now, I don't know whether you've noticed, but creators who connect with each other from different countries, you end up amplifying your own community. You end up growing your own community. I'm not connected to your community, Dennis, but if I created content with you today and we collaborate on that content, your community will see me for the first time, and I will grow my community from you, and vice versa. And that's really the dream here, because if we're really talking about a true creative economy, then it's about empowering the people who are going to be the holders of that currency with the right tools, with the right knowledge, but more importantly, to be able to actually have that virility effect of growing that community that they have.
How far do you actually think this can go? I mean, before we take a break, in terms of the world of influencing and content creation, collaborations, I mean, we've seen it yield, millions and in dollar currency for a lot of folks who've done it. And though that may be one of the key targets, what else can actually then be achieved through this new form of advertising?
So, first and foremost, it's a new form of advertising. It's opening quite a bit of interesting opportunities. Gen Zs today, allow me to zoom out a bit for you guys here. Gen Zs today don't want to be told what to do.
No.
They want to co-create with you. And this is a very interesting thing, because if you look at the established brands in the market right now, you're not going to shove those brands, those products, those services down the Gen Z's throat. Gen Z's want to co-create with you. Gen Z's want you to create a product with them, for them. And that's the reality of the matter right now. What this new economy brings to the table is the opportunity to create new products, new brands that we've never experienced before. And more importantly, what then comes out of this is an opportunity also for employment to be created. 5 years ago, did you ever think of a creator as a career to pursue?
I did.
Oh, you did?
It's my job to see such things.
10 years ago, it wasn't the case. No. And that's the beauty, For us, we see this as a opportunity not just to create new products, new brands, new services that have never been seen before. Also, new careers are coming to the fold as a result of this.
The co-CEO of Dentsu is Joel Rao, and we're having a conversation this morning about the future of influencing and content creation. Where is it taking us? A world that looks very different from how it used to look 10 years ago is the world that we are existing in today. Let's open up that a little bit more as we come back from this break and continue with that conversation at 27 minutes to 9.
.0077. Star Times. Enjoy digital life.
The weather with SpiceFM.
Sunny conditions at 15 in Nairobi. It is 14 sunny in Nakuru and sunny at 15 in Nyeri. Eldoret at 13 sunny. And the sun is up at 25 in Mombasa. Looking at the same in Malindi at 26. 19 in Kisumu and 17 in Kakamega. Into Kampala, sunny at 21, while Dar es Salaam is partly sunny at 24. 11 degrees and cloudy in Johannesburg, while at 27. Mogadishu is sunny with Addis Ababa mostly cloudy at 17. Partly cloudy at 27 in Lagos, with cloudy conditions at 24 in Kinshasa.
Traffic. Brought to you
you by I&M Bank. On your side.
It's a busy morning in Nairobi. Looking at traffic, still heavy coming off of Uhuru Highway, and that's coming from Ombaso Road through from Next Gen. So that's busy there. There's a little bit of a hold up on the southern bypass. Not quite sure what's causing that. Not red yet, but it looks like it might pile up into something. Just to keep an eye on that. Magadi Road coming in towards Langata Road is busy. Gong Road also doing the thing there. So we're still in traffic hour. Let's see what Friday turns out to be. But so far so good, no? We'll talk SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Traffic updates brought to you by I&M Bank, empowering you to achieve your dreams and secure your future with our financial solutions across Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, and Mauritius. I&M Bank, on your side.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 24 minutes to 9 o'clock. Sheila Masasabi says it's a rare occasion, it's a rare sighting. I think of David Attenborough, where she says that two people that she went to school with are in the same room. One of them is Joel. Who is the other?
Yeah.
Because it's not me.
Who's this?
Sheila Masasabi. Who is the other person that she went to school with? Joel is one of them, obviously.
Why are you looking at me?
I'm looking at you.
I suspect this is probably because of Sheila Masasabi. Well, she's very interested in this conversation this morning, and one that we're having around the world of influencing and content creation.
You know, Rao.
Yeah.
I've had a chance to travel a bit, and one of the things that disturbs me today, today's Friday, Sunday. If you go to Nairobi CBD, every road within the CBD is flooded with young people dancing.
Yep.
Okay? And I look back at content creation in this country, and sorry, I'm going to use this word. It's somewhat trashy. And there's a difference between content creation and viral content. I don't know whether there's a difference. You'll explain. But what we tend to see a lot in the Kenyan space is, it's my opinion. Somebody will disagree with me, but it's just my opinion. A lot of the content we see is very shallow or controversial or toxic or trashy. And that equates to content creation. I'm a content creator. You look at what the person is doing, and it's like, again, it's my opinion. There is nothing there. Turning your back against the camera and TWERKING, to me, is not content creation. All right? But it appears to the
Some
Gen
would beg
Z
is that there's a lot of content there, but
well, I couldn't agree more. But maybe I'm the wrong audience. Wow, maybe I'm the wrong audience.
Yeah.
But to me, I just back up a bit. There's a young lady who stormed TikTok with that. And it kind of worked, I think, for her. So everybody else seems to be copying the same trend. And I keep thinking, these people don't have jobs. So they're on TikTok for so many hours doing that same thing. And you flip, you go. I don't know whether it's the algorithm. That's all you see. So I sit and wonder, is that all there is? Is that the current trend in Kenya?
But even before you bug Joel, how did the influencing start? What was Kim Kardashian's claim to fame, if you remember?
Well, what they were doing. What they were doing.
Watershed.
Well, you see, I have come to accept one thing to be true. For our generation, we had a line where content was of a certain pedigree and repute. For this generation that was born when Kim Kardashian was starting with Ray J, right? That generation has grown up with a very different mentality. And I ask myself, if I was 22 and I was jobless and TikTok can give me flowers, rings, and lions, and I was blessed in certain circumstances, would I not do the same thing? Because sometimes we judge people morally when the economics of their day makes sense. In fact, if
how are you going to combine both of those?
I'm just wondering how I'm going to combine these two.
Okay.
And not lose your job.
So, first and foremost, Dennis, yes, it's your opinion, and you're entitled to it, but that's not the reality. And let me be the first person to disagree with that. Yeah. You see, just like in journalism, when you had shows here, you had Jimmy Gathu doing Jamadelic, we had Club Kiboko, we had all these shows happening, right? Those were shows that were written and created for the audience, but through a reputable media house, KTN. What social media has done, it has made every single person with a social media account a potential media house. That's really what it has done. It has democratized everything. Now, with that in mind, yes, you'll have some people doing the trashy content you're referring to. However, and I'll say this with a lot of boldness and a lot of conviction because of what I've been able to see, there is really, really good content out there. I met these two young gentlemen during the School of Influence who created a sports show on TikTok. And all they talk about is sports. Guess what? TikTok globally awarded them for the sports show they had as the best sports show content they had. We have people talking about money out there, business news, like even news today. Like there's a lady who goes on Twitter and just talks, and Twitter and TikTok, and she just talks about news, but from a Gen Z lens. You have people dissecting the finance bill in ways that I haven't seen done yet in appointed viewing, across our media houses. So basically what social media has done, Web 2.0, all it has done, it has made every single person with a social media account a potential media house. Someone now has a mouthpiece and an audience to talk to. How they engage that audience is up to them. There's really, really good content out there. There's so many good podcasts that exist today around so many things, around relationships, it's not trashy content, it's content that actually builds you, it's content that educates you, and ultimately it will entertain. So as I said before, if it does not educate you, does not inform you, it will entertain you. So which of the three within that triangle, would the content pieces, fall under? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know how to answer your question, but I hope I've answered.
No. Yeah. You're totally fine.
Yeah.
I am the risk taker here.
Yeah.
The question I want to ask, and probably now tied to Dennis's question.
Yeah.
Elucidate for us, or rather even shed light on how much money are these young people actually making. So let's say per view or per number of followers, especially on TikTok, because I know that's the one that makes the best money. Instagram, I think, is
actually surprisingly it's Snapchat.
It's Snapchat that makes the most money.
Snapchat pays creators very, very well.
All right, give us this.
And if you're not on Snapchat, please get on Snapchat if you want to make money.
No, I am on. I'm on everything. Whether I use it is another question. But tell us about this money thing, because at the end of the day, whatever it is you're doing, right? Like the lady referred to, she bought a house for her mom, right? And that's big, right?
Yeah.
How much are these young people making? No, let me not just even say young people. How much are people making?
Yeah. So look, let me zoom out a bit to give you context. Yeah. The way advertisers, and this media houses, the new age media houses, the new media, the YouTubes of this world, the TikToks, the X's of this world, the Metas of this world, the way they make money is there is already an engaged audience there,
Yeah.
right? The advertiser will pay money to these media houses, and then a percentage of that money goes to
the content creator.
A percentage of that money remains with the media house. To what percentage varies.
Yeah.
YouTube does the same thing. So you create content, you see an ad there, you watch the ad, the advertiser is charged, a percentage of that money goes to the creator, a percentage of that money stays with the and let me call the creator the publisher, whoever is publishing the content. That model has existed since the inception of advertising on the internet, since 1999. It has always been there. What's really interesting now is that now brands now coming directly, they're going beyond the media house, and they're going directly to the creators of the content, because now they can say, hey, over and above us doing these skippable ads on YouTube, can we have a product positioning in your show, right? If I was here and I had my soft drink bottle here and we are streaming live, and every single time we go on break, I'm sipping it. What does that do to the psyche of the consumer who's there? If this is cool for Dennis, it must be cool for me.
I can have it too.
It's a new way of doing things, right? And it's psychological in a way, right? So there's that aspect. Now, to your question, it varies. And you know, this is one of the big things we talked about during the School of Influence. It varies because it depends on, number one, how many people do you have in your community? How engaged is that community? And then based off of market pricing models that exist, how much would you charge? And so it varies. So there's no one answer. You'll have someone charging 50,000, you'll have someone charging 500,000. So it really varies. Yeah.
Perhaps let me reframe my question. Is it a viable career path if you have the talent there needed and the information needed?
I don't think talent is enough. It's never going to be enough. I would say discipline and hard work.
Yeah.
Consistency. And when I talk about discipline, it's the consistently to do that. Whether you're doing it well or not, consistency and discipline and that hard work that goes into it is important. Number two, it's the knowledge and the information that you have around what you're creating the content. So if you're creating a subject matter around technology, for example, I want to be the subject matter expert around technology. I'm going to review every device that comes out in this market. The moment it hits the market, I'm going to be reviewing it. I'm going to be unboxing it. I'm going to be saying how long this battery lasts, or the camera, is it good or not? You know, all those aspects, storage, everything. If I'm going to do review around technology, then I need to be consistent about it. I need to be well informed. I need to have all the knowledge that I have. And then the content pieces that you create, what works for what audience in which platform.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Joel, even as you say that, so I think of two people.
Yeah.
And it's interesting for me because they cut across age. And, you know, now that we talk about content creation and influencing, we seem to think that it's a preserve of younger folk. But that's not the case.
Yeah.
There is one lady in Kenya, I think she could be my grandmother. And she says one-liners. They're one-liners, literally. And they're hilarious. And it's obvious that she's got a team behind her. But it's just the way she looks and what she says. It's off the charts sometimes, but it would be like giving it advice or the funniest things. And she says them, she is not polished English or anything, you know, or with lights, camera, action.
Yeah.
She's in her natural habitat and she says these things and they're hilarious. But then you take away some of the things that she says. So, but that aspect of it being consistent is interesting because then it can create something for you. Another one that strikes me is Kabanelame, who doesn't say a word on any of his videos, but he's probably, is he not the top content creator in the world right now?
Without saying a word.
But he's been consistent in what he's done. But that his claim to fame, or that his what else he's been able to do as a result of that, came from that. that it is not just the content creation or the influencing now that racks up for him what his influence actually is. So are there not lessons to, it's a wave, it takes, are there not lessons to be learned from this?
There's so many
what
lessons.
Can be done?
There's so many, and I love what you've just said, because Lame is an example of that. People, when people see success, people don't realize how much hard work went in the background to consistently be there. And his example is actually really good, because by just doing this, it's simple. Why are we complicating things? Very relatable, very exportable. It's that reality is something that I think creators today need to understand. It's not just about what you know, what you're speaking of, or what you're demonstrating, or what you're entertaining people about. It's more than that. It's more than the lip syncing and the dances that you do there. That consistency is important. What I've come to realize is that consumers will tend to continually engage with content that is more personalized and more relatable to them. If they relate to it, they'll always come back to it. And that's actually what we're even seeing. Even in advertising, that's what we're seeing. That's the future of advertising. It's personalization. And also brands are catching up with that. And that's why the creator space is growing. So to your question, what we are emphasizing on is, if you can be able to consistently do it, understand, what goes where. Kabi wouldn't do that on Facebook. No. But it was very snackable on TikTok. Because you're doom scrolling, you're constantly scrolling. This wouldn't have worked on X. You understand?
Yes.
He understood what the platform needed, and he was able to actually take advantage of that. So in my mind, understanding what needs the platform have, and also understanding your consumer. If you're creating content that's really relatable to them, and it gains that virility, then just keep at it. Just keep at it.
My question, going back to monetization and treating content creation as a business, is it true that there's a different pricing model for content creators in Kenya or largely Africa compared to Europe and America?
Absolutely. You see, what people forget to realize is that your advertising muscle in any economy is what will drive the ability of a creator to earn more or less. So I'll give an example. Our advertising economy here in Kenya, our size is not as big as South Africa.
Not at all.
It's 7 times. South Africa is 7x Kenya. Right? Do you know what China or the US is? Astronomical, right?
It must be crazy.
It must be crazy. Why? Because it's a bigger economy, you have more people, businesses are thriving,
more products,
so more advertising.
And a big advertising culture as well.
Exactly, and a big advertising culture. So with that in mind, with the advertising dollars that are pumped into the system, what then happens is that if you're a creator, then your ability to earn is also more. Right? So that will always be a reality. And people don't realize is that, and allow me to just say this, the ability of an advertising economy to grow is also very much dependent on the stringent measures that are actually put in place. From a tax perspective, from a practitioner's perspective, there's quite a lot that actually goes into that. Right?
No, I guess, I don't know whether I'm getting what you're saying. Let's take a case in point, YouTube.
Yes.
How much do you need in terms of viewership or followers to start earning anything?
I'm not sure how much you need to start earning. What I can tell you is your ability to... So I'll give an example. The cost per view right now on YouTube as an advertiser would be on average, 2 cents to the dollar? 1 cent to 2 cents to the dollar for every ad that is viewed, right? That 2 cents is divided between the publisher, the one who's creating the content, and YouTube. Okay? That's set on stone. Now, if I was to run the same ad in the US, do you know how much it would cost? It would cost me probably $2 or $3. Now,
that's $100. 200 times.
It's exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying.
So then what this then means is for content creators in Kenya or Africa, you already start at a disadvantage because if you gain a million views, for example, you're in Kenya, and somebody and Kabi or somebody in the US or in Europe has a million views.
Yes.
They are 100 times ahead.
Exactly.
And compete in the same space.
But it's a factor, and I always say this, and I'll sound like a broken telephone because I think every interview I've gone for, I've actually mentioned this. The ability to do business in a certain country goes a long way, because if the ability to create more industry, you guys were talking about manufacturing. We are importing quite a bit. We're not building here.
Things,
Our ability to build here and market here. Our population is what, 55 million?
Yeah.
That's massive. It's such a massive population. And people don't realize that our ability to have more businesses here, to create more products, to have more brands, more services, that means there's more competition. That means there's going to be more advertising. It's a domino effect.
It is. It's all connected, isn't it?
And then other markets are not being charged this 5%. What is it?
And is it based on that realization?
Yeah.
Okay.
And one thing that is very important to understand, the fact that TikTok has ways of funds to pay fans is part of the reason why it's the biggest platform for Gen Zs in terms of creating content.
Thank you.
Than YouTube, because YouTube you're waiting for views, and you'll get 1 million views, and you'll get what, 20,000 shillings.
Yeah.
Then, in fact, Kanyari did the math. Kanyari said that he used to get up to 200,000 shillings per day with whenever he would be trending with. What was that thing he did? He was casting out demons from one of your people you don't like. It was a whole thing, but he made a whole bunch of money out of it.
So is this in gifts or TikTok paying him?
So what happens is
TikTok paying.
Yeah, TikTok
gifting.
Yeah.
I know people make money in gifting, but here I'm talking about content, for example, where it's a platform that's paying.
So in Africa, in most of Africa, including South Africa, the amount of money you make per million views, a million views is a lot.
It's a lot, yeah.
It's a lot. Is not
the same
half of what you'll get in the United States.
I'll give another example. And it's also applicable in music, right? I'll take Spotify, for example. Same model. The number of streams music artist gets to make. The amount of money a music artist gets to make from 1 million streams on the continent is not the same as what they would make abroad. And do you know why? It's based off of the number of subscriptions on the continent. Remember, it's all driven by money in, money out.
Yeah.
So if we are not empowered enough, if our population is not empowered enough to make more money, to put money in, then guess what? However much we're talking about the creator economy and everything that we want to do here, it's not going to work. I mean, it's all great that we're establishing these structures, but I think there's need for us to actually have a bird's eye view of how this actually operates.
True.
Indeed. Is there one need that outdoes the other when it comes to, because you talk about, is it informing, is it educating,
or entertaining?
Yeah. Is there one that outdoes the other in terms of then how you would then be able to gain traction as we come to the end of this?
I think of it as a triangle.
Yeah.
And you can choose what you want. There was a very interesting anecdote about the type of woman that you'd want if you're young. And it's the same triangle model. It's the same applies also in content. Is it entertaining? Is it educating me? Or is it informing me? If you can have all three, you're golden. But more often than not, we see the two. It's always one side of the triangle. It's either educating and entertaining, or it's either entertaining and informing, or it's educating and informing. So it's quite interesting.
But entertainment has more creators in it. Right. Information has the least number of creators in it.
And can I tell you something that's interesting? The people who actually double in informing and educating are the fastest growing creators
True.
That's the biggest, that's the fastest growing category right
It's
now.
interesting, very interesting. I mean, even as a plug, I think of a lady, a friend of mine called Rena Hicks, who does Money Wise. And when she started, she had 2 views. But today, when the whole world is around this, how do I save, invest? And she can't go anywhere without the walls falling down around her. So, I mean, there's an example of it.
Yeah.
I mean, Joel Rao is a co-CEO of Dentsu, who's been here with us this morning. The future of content creation and influencing, definitely there is a future here, and interesting how we navigate those waters. Thanks for being in the Situation Room this morning.
Thank you.
Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Again, this time in person.
Yeah, in person. I hope it's not going to take 5 years.
Oh, no. Come on. The future of influencing is here and now and present. Good morning, everybody. It's 9 a.m.
Awesome. Yeah.
Good morning. This is the news wire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Former Nairobi Provincial Police Officer Anthony Kibuchi is dead. Kibuchi died at the Kenyatta University Referral Hospital in Nairobi after battling cancer. He had been admitted there and his family sought help for blood donation to stabilize him. A family spokesman said he succumbed to prostate cancer, which he had been diagnosed with in 2018. He retired in 2013 and retreated to his Kianugu home in Kirinyaga. A worker identified as Rogers Agangwa, aged 23, was electrocuted at a bakery in Nairobi's Kariobangi area. Other employees of the bakery said the deceased had finished the day's work and was washing his dust coat when the incident happened. Witnesses told police he went to hang the coat on a line that is next to a naked wire when the incident happened. Nyamira County Woman Representative Jerusha Momanyi has questioned the government's decision not to allocate funds for national examinations in the country. Speaking in Borabu constituency, Jerusha said the Ministry of Education must put in place strategies to ensure that national examinations are allocated funds in the budget estimates for the 2025-2026 financial year to ensure that candidates participate in the examinations as intended. Jerusha said this just a day after members of the National Assembly's Education Committee discovered that the Ministry of Education had not allocated any funds to national examinations.
Kama komiti tumesema ya kwamba waende waweke hizo pesa za mtihani, waone ni pande gani watatafuta hiyo pesa, ili kila mtoto ambaye ako katika ile darasa ambalo linaenda kufanya mtihani aende kufanya mtihani vizuri, kwa sababu invigilators lazima walipwe na wale ambao wanaenda ku mark exams lazima walipwe. So lazima hiyo pesa ya exams irudishwe.
Residents of Uasin Gishu County have raised several issues that they suggest should be addressed in the process of formulating the 2025-2026 budget. Speaking during a public participation session chaired by the Parliamentary Budget Committee Chairman Samuel Atandi, along with the MPs Julius Ruto for Keses and Janet Sitiene for Tarbo, the residents called for infrastructure, electricity, water, agriculture, health and CDF funds to be prioritized in the budget. Atandi noted that this year's budget seeks to reduce allocations across all sectors in order to reduce debt.
In a nutshell, we have tried our best to ensure that we live within our means. The budget is going to be supported by revenue projections from ordinary revenue, which we are going to collect by Kenyans, but more fundamentally, we are also going to borrow a little. One of the things that we have done in this budget this year is to cut our borrowing limit. For example, in the last year, 2024-2025, our fiscal deficit was 5.2% of GDP. In this budget, we have lowered the fiscal deficit to 4.5 only. That means we are trying to live within our means. We are trying to cut the coat according to our size.
And finally, President William Ruto's foreign policy has once again come into the spotlight following his latest trip to China. This comes after the United States Senate expressed fresh concerns over Kenya's deepening ties with China, a move that could jeopardize Nairobi's long-standing relationship with Washington. Senator Jim Rich The ranking member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee sounded the alarm during a congressional hearing, citing Ruto's recent visit to Beijing as a cause for a serious reassessment of Kenya's status as a key U.S. ally in Africa.
Many African nations maintain troubling ties with China, including key national security partners. Just last month, President Ruto declared that Kenya a major non-NATO ally and China are co-architects of a new world order. It's time to reassess our relationship with Kenya and others who forge tight bonds with China. And it isn't just an embracement of China, but also the, quote, new world order, end quote.
That's the news wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
All right, so traffic hasn't been too crazy this Friday. We're looking at a little bit of that coming through on Jogo Road, and it'll get towards Landis where it's free and clear, and then touch a little bit on Haile Selassie. There is some traffic on the Thika Superhighway coming in from Survey through towards the underpass at Pangani, and also on Kiambu Road, that still continues. Heavy traffic on Wayaki Way as you come past, inbound, I don't know what's going on with that. Is it inbound or outbound? Yes, it is. It is inbound. There's going to touch on traffic that's coming off of James Gishoro in and outbound on the Red Hill Link Road. Is absolutely crazy. Also, some traffic, Ring Road Westlands still doing the thing there. Ring Road Kileleshwa as well. Very busy. We'll keep an eye and keep things moving. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room. Six minutes after 9 o'clock into the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation this Friday, the Situation Room, and wrapping up things for the week. And Ndu, Dennis and Mark with you today as we get into a conversation, a bit of a sticky one, but we're going to do it all the same. We alluded to some of these things throughout the whole week, and it's time for us to have that conversation with you. When we talk about situations in the country, sometimes we're not really in tune with what exactly is going on. And this Friday, in this hour, we turn our spotlight on health. Not talking about the system. We're not talking about what SHA did or did not do. We're not talking about what SHIF is doing or did not do. We're not talking about what the Ministry of Health is doing. We're talking about situations in which Kenyans are walking themselves into facilities, unfortunately, not getting what they need. And we are going to talk about those issues. It is going to be difficult. It's going to be tough. But we are going to talk about them anyway because we need to. Oftentimes, in search of a solution, you have to turn or take the lid off the ugly, and so that we can have hope for what it should look like. And so we get into that conversation this hour. But before we do that, Mark, you want to remind us about today's proverb?
Well, the proverb is about turbans. Where the turban goes, there the territory will follow.
Where the turban goes, the territory will follow. Where the leader goes, the people will follow.
Yes.
Where the wisdom goes.
But also, in my view, it is also about the winds of change, the winds of time. For example, these Trump winds. If you are in the NGO space, the territory has followed the turban.
Indeed.
Speaking of winds, the other analogy for me is if you decide to blow wind and you walk away thinking you've left it behind you, the wind will be following you.
And here I was thinking, okay, here we go. Dennis is about to be really deep here. Let's follow. It is quite... My goodness. Okay, so... Okay, focus.
Can I read something?
Read it.
This is total coincidence. There's a lady called Just Kabura, right? And she was in hospital on Wednesday to deliver her child. And instead of delivering her child, this is the story she wrote on Instagram. Just underscore Kabura says, Amaya Leilani, my baby girl, died in my womb on Wednesday around 1 a.m. and I gave birth at 9 a.m. She is a person and didn't deserve to die like that. I really didn't expect this. How I was going to announce that I have been pregnant this whole time. My heart is broken and I'm so mad I can't even find the words to describe what I'm feeling. Her life mattered and justice will be served. Name of hospital withheld in Imaradaima killed my baby due to negligence. I had to run away bleeding. Let me start again. I had to run away bleeding, naked, with a urinary catheter between my legs, barefoot, and with a dead baby inside my stomach to save my life because the doctors decided to go and hide and left me on a theater table alone after realizing they had effed up.
That is criminal. It's oh my God. You know, some of these places are actually not hospitals, and you hear stories like that, and it's not uncommon. You realize these are death traps. They're actually not hospitals. It's just a hospital by name, but that's the reality. And if you think that it's only those who can't afford to go to a hospital who suffer these things, we who can afford have also seen things. And every time you think of either going to a hospital, you actually freak out.
Yeah.
You know, you would assume if you're unwell, or in the case of that lady, sorry to her, you think you're going to hospital to seek refuge, you're going to get help. You're going to deliver a baby. You've carried this baby for 9 months. You're going to deliver a baby. Whatever complication is there, you expect something is going to be done. But when it reaches a point of abandonment, where she says, as you've read, runs away to save her life, carrying a dead baby in her womb,
yes,
and it's in a hospital, I don't know what levels of humanity we've reached as a society, or lack of professionalism. It's despicable, to say the least.
You know, and to just underscore Kabura or Kafura, pole sana. I say pole sana because my history with hospitals goes way back. And one of the stories that I remember, that even as I fight tears for this young lady and her child, is I remember when my sister delivered a baby, and we discovered later that not the whole placenta had come out. And I had to use significant influence to get the hospital to admit that they had made a mistake and to treat my sister. And I wish that was one story. But as I sit here, I can tell 10 that are not mine and 10 that are mine. And that's what we need to discuss. When we watch TV shows and we see ER doctors and Dr. House and the rest, and we see them fight tooth and nail for their patients, then I remember that a good friend of mine was having a baby 2 weeks ago. And I had to be there. Not just to be there for him and his wife, but just to be there to make sure nothing would go wrong. I'm not a medic, but I have learned to approach hospitals with a warrior stance. I have to go and fight. You have to fight for attention. You have to fight to be believed. You have to fight to be served.
But why? Why? And I think that why question will probably open up the conversation a little bit more, because the sheer numbers of the stories that we hear, the experiences that people go through, where people die, where people then have lifelong conditions as a result of complications that should have been taken care of in hospitals in the space where we live, is a bit scary. And that this lady, as a point of contact for the stories that we'll share this morning, has lived through a horrific experience whereby her life was in danger. Obviously, the life of her child then cut short, and then having to live with the horror and trauma of that experience for God knows how long. Are we seeing that there's a heightened level of carelessness, nonchalance when it comes to the health, or are we just dealing with unprofessionalism? Sad to say that we do have medical facilities in this country that are manned by folks who are not medical professionals. One. Sadly, we also have had people who have lost their lives or gone through complications in facilities that are professional organizations. What's the problem? Why do we see so many? What's happening?
I think it's a breakdown of so many things. I'll give an example, because you've talked about professionalism and so on and so forth. I remember several years ago, I did a story on a doctor calling himself Dr. Muga. I exposed the man. I think he's still in jail today. When I went to his clinic, well, I didn't enter the clinic. I was working with somebody from the inside to cover the story. For 1 whole month, I had a hidden camera inside his hospital. And this person who was helping me film everything that was going on would come back to the station. I'll review the footage, hours and hours of footage. Then I will just edit, keep what was needed. And the entire time, as a journalist looking at the footage, obviously there's something I was looking for. But then I took a step back, and then I realized they're actually human beings walking in and walking out with prescription drugs, having had injections. Now, sad enough, there are some, and these are women, who are actually sexually abused by the man after getting an injection, knocks them off, and then he pretends to be attending to the patient, and he abuses them. By the time the patient is waking up, they actually don't even know where they are or what has just happened. And I was watching this video. I didn't realize how it was affecting me until later on. So when I was looking at these people going in, of course the clinic has a name. He has, whether they are real or fake, he has these licenses on the wall. But people go in trusting that Daktari utanitibu. They believe when you wear that coat, you have a stethoscope, that you are going to treat them. So there is this trust that people have when they go to a hospital that you are a professional and you merit being there. So in return, when some of these things happen, like in this case, that's when you realize, even in some of the big hospitals, there's some malpractices there. I'm not just talking about a small clinic in Kayole or Madare. I'm talking about big hospital, tier 1s and tier 2s. We've seen those kind of cases happen, you know. If it is not being asked for money first, because I've had, you know, experiences where you question a doctor, what's going on with my child? They're not able to tell you. And you're intelligent enough to know they're just taking corners and taking around in circles. And all they want, and unfortunately, as long as you have insurance cover, you are the right candidate to be fleeced. That's a whole subject altogether. So the first thing they ask you before treatment is, where's your cover? Where's the money? Where's the deposit? And you're dealing with an emergency case here. My personal experience, and this is so unfortunate, my daughter was unwell and in the ICU, in a coma. Barely a week, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I'm slapped with a medical bill. It's not in a few thousands, it's a couple of millions. And I'm thinking, where am I getting all this money? And you're telling me I need to pay half of it by Friday or else.
Or else what?
It's a dotted line. Or else, it's a dotted line. They leave you to figure it out. So you are under pressure to understand what's going on. You're being pushed to look for money to pay. And at the end of the day, you're actually not being told what's wrong with the patient. So you have to live with your loved one, whether you know what is going on with them or not. That's how it is for so many Kenyans in this country when they're going to the hospitals.
Do you know, Dennis, I was doing research on the entry of these funds that come in to expand hospitals rapidly, right? And I was doing the math as to why they like Kenya specifically. Now, I'm sure you've realized that many hospitals nowadays start off small, they're good, and then they expand very quickly, right? So let me tell you what happens. A good hospital means that you've got a good doctor to patient ratio. You've got experienced nurses, you've got experienced administration, and you've got an efficient system running, and you're profitable. When these funds come in, they offer you 3, 4, 5 billion, right? And they tell you they're taking over 30% of your hospital, and then it's a good deal for you. You're an entrepreneur. Then what happens is two very interesting things. Number one, they immediately fire the experienced staff. And then the consultants they begin to do these things they call consultancy. So they're there in the morning, they do rounds, they're gone. The people who attend to the patients then are reduced to medical officers and sometimes trainee doctors. The first person you're seeing is not as qualified as it used to be. Correct? Now, apply this standardization all through the hospital. Right? So it means that the experience of the staff is reduced. Why? Because the easiest way to make an organization very profitable is to make the labor cheaper. That's one side. The other side of what they do is they then give doctors, or in this case clinical officers in some cases, a quota of people to admit. So you're told that today you must admit 100 patients. Must. Does not matter whether in your estimation out of the 120, 150 patients you saw, only 20 deserved to be admitted. If they see that card of yours, admission is very likely. In that space, what happens then is if you have a complicated issue, okay, it means the detection of that complicated issues, instead of taking a day, like in your case, it will take a week or two. Because a complicated issue requires that you have 3, 4, 5 experts. In my case, it was a neurologist, an endocrinologist, God, I've even forgotten, there were like 5.
Another gist.
Yes. And because they're all consultants, it's very difficult for them to come and meet at the same time to come up with a combined diagnosis. So you find that some key issues that should be escalated are not escalated quickly enough. And then, what does that force you to do? You've got to go doctor shopping. For your diabetes, see 5 doctors. For your migraines, see 5 doctors. Get 6-7 tests done per day, right? In fact, guess how many tests I've done this year? Before they found what was wrong with me. More than 60. More than 60 different tests. Because the system as it is today is not centered on the patient. It is centered on commerce and lowering costs.
You know, speak of commerce. I happened to be in a meeting. This is a real story. In a meeting, I had a patient. So I was pleading with the hospital because I wanted to figure out what's going on.
First.
I could clearly tell they're stretching, like Mark is saying, you're trying to stretch the days of admission, but I want to understand why admit for this number of days. Who are all these doctors? What exactly are they looking for? So I'm sitting in this office, and somebody walked in from NHIF. And as they're having this conversation, this is the finance office of the hospital. So as they're having these discussions, I'm just sitting there. And for some strange reason, the 3 talking inside that office almost forgot that I actually existed. So I'm listening to this conversation where the hospital finance officer is asking this gentleman from the NHI, a very senior person from NHI, that, oh, you guys, we're actually claiming a lot of millions, almost 500 million from you guys. You're not paying us. What's going on? We need this money for expansion. They're expanding the hospital, creating another facility. And they ended up, to cut the long story short, discussing figures. And they were talking about how much money they needed to raise within 3 months because of the expansion. They have deadlines and they need to pay suppliers. They need to do all these things. And they're looking at vis-a-vis the numbers that they're generating from the hospital in terms of revenue. And how they were having this discussion, they're not talking as if these are human beings or patients who are sick in the hospital. They're looking at profit heads. Okay? And the conversation went further. So when I was talking to one of the doctors, the doctor pulled me to the side and said, Dennis, it's unfortunate that this can actually even happen to you, because in reality, what's happening is departments have targets.
To meet their targets?
Yes. This is a hospital. So pharmacy, they will have a target. Inpatient, they have a target. Outpatient, they have a target. The lab, they have a target. So if your target, for example, is 5 million at the end of the month, and you're on date 25, you still have 5 more days to go, and you've not reached your target. Guess what happens to the patients who walk in, like Mark was saying?
Every patient who walks into that place is going to be asked to go to the lab.
You are a customer.
Yes.
You're not actually a patient, you're a customer. And there's a way they will package disease in an envelope and give you all these documentations of all these tests that you need to do. And you have no room to question why.
Because they have a doctor.
Exactly. So then you get into the hospital. Somebody walks in. I had that experience because I had a surgery. Someone walks in, tells me, Dennis, lift up your left hand. I lift, and then they walk away. Guess what I was billed at the end of 3 days? 145,000.
For lifting your hands?
For just lifting my hands, putting it down. I may understand maybe there's something they're looking for, but I had like 3-4 people walking in, walking out.
And that person is a consultant, for example, of some physiotherapy, something, okay?
Exactly. And so, apart from being death traps, these are basically, as somebody once told me, Dennis, these are thugs who are profiteering from sick people. And that's why people opt to go to India, for example. Even the politicians know, and that's why you will rarely find a politician going to a local hospital for treatment. Even delivery, they have to go to country outside Kenya because you don't trust your own hospitals.
We've gotten to the point where the commercialization of health far outrides now the treatment of several individuals, right? And we're not necessarily just talking about the actual brick and mortar treatment that a doctor sees you and says this needs to happen. But we're talking about a system whereby, like you say, the patients who would previously come in and the health is optimum, or the health needs are optimum in terms of priority, what we're looking at now is bottom line. It's the bottom line that is being sought after now. Now, when you couple that with, unfortunately, the mediocre treatment that we see for many people, it's really a very, very sad state of affairs. You will go and you will get a diagnosis for something that you've not been tested on. How does somebody look at you, for example, and tell you that you have an infection? It is not possible. Just by your symptoms, I can tell that you have this, and then you're taken to the lab. It's interesting because Victor gives an example here, and there are very many people getting it on socials this morning. Victor says, these guys are forcing a surgery on my nephew just because of an inflammation from an infection. And I said no. The inflammation cleared in 3 days, and he said no to the surgery and then stayed at home for another 3 days, and that essentially all cleared up. They say that the three people that you believe the most, your teacher, your priest, and your doctor. So if the doctor tells you something is wrong just by them looking at you, because we assume that you've been to medical school and you get what it is that's going on, the likelihood of you taking it at gospel truth is very, very high. But are we sacrificing people who are sick on the altar of commercialization when it comes to the healthcare sector? And it would appear as though it is. How many people have died? How many people have gone in to have surgeries that were unnecessary? How many things have happened that didn't need to happen? And we leave people then now languishing in squalor because of decisions that were taken over finances that they needed to go and get for procedures that they did not need. Is this not the situation that we are in today?
Let me tell you, whenever I go to hospital, or if I know someone who's gone to hospital and you're given prescription drugs, my advice is, first, check the expiry dates. Because a lot of times we don't do that. I've had an experience where I've been given expired medicine. And because a lot of times you will trust an institution that they will have everything right.
They're reputable, maybe.
Yes. So they will pack for you everything. Then they tell you take this 3 times a day. You immediately start taking those medications without checking a lot of these things. First, you check the dates. I have to check the contents. I actually Google. Every time I receive any prescription, I actually Google, because there was a time, I remember again, I was unwell, I get medication, and the prescription that I was being given, this medicine will fight this one, and it will have a serious side effect on my body. I called the doctor and asked the doctor, you prescribed for me to take this, but I'm seeing here, this medicine is going to fight this. And in return, what's going to happen, it's going to fight my body. And I'm already having these side effects. Then he said, no, then let's decrease the dosage. Instead of 500 milligrams, let's do 200. I'm like, how are you experimenting on my body with drugs? Am I a rat, you know? And that's the situation where we're in. And it's because, one, they will prey either on the ignorance of people or on the trust and the desperation. You trust, like you said, you trust this doctor. So when you go, you believe. One time I walked into a hospital, I just cut my finger with a glass. I went to emergency. So I get in, I'm treated. So they did a couple of tests, so I didn't cut any nerves, so the finger was okay. So I'm sitting with this doctor because, again, you have to pay for consultation.
Of course.
So I pay 6,000 for consultation. Then the doctor is looking at my arm and says, Dennis, did you have breakfast this morning? I said, no. I was actually getting the cup to have coffee, and it fell, and it cut my finger. Good. Did you come alone? Yes, I did. So I think we need to go for surgery. Do you know, I drove myself to hospital. I ended up on an operation table in the theater.
For
same
what?
morning. Same finger.
What had changed?
You know how the doctor will begin to explain things. If we don't do this, we need to do this. Otherwise, you'll get this infection. You'll do this, do that, do this, do that. I ended up being operated on.
No, you didn't.
Yes. I was. They obviously saw I have an insurance cover, and I woke up in the afternoon in the ward.
What did they operate?
The finger.
For what?
They needed to save the finger, and they said
had
they
you
could be
cut a
damaged.
nerve? Had you cut
No,
the
I
bone?
didn't.
Had
No,
you
I
cut the
didn't.
bone?
No.
Are you kidding me?
2 days I was in the ward. People are coming with flowers. I'm like, I can walk.
I broke a cup.
I can walk.
I broke
What's
a
going
coffee
on?
cup, for God's sake.
People are coming. And somebody hears, Mark, if I hear today you've been hospitalized, you're admitted.
Well, when I'm hospitalized, it's serious.
It's serious.
Yeah.
But if I come with flowers and
You're also wondering.
and juice and fruits, then you are actually on your phone. You are laughing. It's just a big protruding bandage on your finger. I'm like, you can go home, recover from home. You get what I mean? That's where we are.
Dennis, I understand where you're coming from. I had a surgery 2 months ago, right? Now, let me give you a bit of background, right? I started being sick in 2021, right? And it progressively got worse and worse and worse and worse, and didn't know what was going on. Met very many doctors, and this I must say, I think over the course of my illness, I met over 20 different specialists in this country, and I met some very amazing people. So it's not everyone. But when I had my surgery, first it was prepaid, right? So I paid all of it beforehand in cash, because insurance, some surgeons do not want you to pay via insurance because insurance takes long to pay them back. That's another story. But I'm in pain. I literally had written my will, had called my best friends and told them, listen, Mark Bichachi is out. I'm done, because it's been 4 years. My pain is just getting worse. I used to hug people. I tremble. I finish the show. I am on painkillers the rest of the day. It was a mess. So anyway, miracle happens. This doctor from India recently moved to Kenya. I go see him because of my migraines, which is a totally different story from the rest of what is going on in my body, or so I thought. Then he looks at me and he's like, hey, bro, you realize that all of these symptoms are caused by one thing? I'm like, what? You can't be serious, because I've been seeing X number of experts. So he says, anyway, we can do surgery. Long story short, do the surgery. It works, right? I'm supposed to be discharged. Okay? I tell these people, I'm like, listen, I have prepaid. Okay? I need to go home. Doctor has discharged me. In fact, the slowness didn't start there. After surgery, you know how they put you in recovery? After recovery, they kept me waiting for 2 hours for a gurney to take me to the ward. That's another story. But now, it's time to be discharged. I tell them, listen, I'm giving you 2 hours. And if you don't give me my discharge papers, I will walk out of this hospital. We reminded them every 30 minutes.
Why were they keeping you longer?
Because there's this thing about being discharged. That's why I related it to Dennis's story. I've been discharged from hospital enough times to know. Look at that bill. There's always things that have been added that you didn't use. Visits by experts that you did not receive.
For raising up your arm.
Yes. So you need to sit through that bill and make sure that there is not an extra 100,000 that you're being charged because you say it's insurance. You just pay and go. What they do is they spend so much time discharging you that you're so frustrated you don't want to look at that paper. Right? But I had been in hospital and due for so long. I am even due for a checkup as we sit here today. I'm afraid to go to hospital.
Because you don't know what is going to bear.
It's just traumatic. Do you know I walked out? I got out of bed, dressed up, got into the lift with my big bandage on my head, and walked out of the hospital. That's the only time they were able to give me my papers on time. By the time you are retaining a patient uncomfortably, simply because you want to prove that you can milk the most amount of money out of them, then that Hippocratic oath that you took has severely been damaged.
There's a problem. We can't run away from it. There are too many stories for it to be normal. There are too many stories of folks who have either been fleeced. We started off this hour talking about this woman who had gone to have her baby, left with her baby dead in her womb, and for all intents and purposes, a catastrophic situation. How many people go through this situation where we say the commercialization of healthcare has overtaken the treatment of the sick? That's the conversation that we're having this morning. It rounds up a Healthy Friday conversation today, and we're asking that question. Too many people are suffering. Where did this all start from? How do we handle it at 21 minutes to 10? Good morning. All right, so we're coming out of traffic hour. Still not too, hasn't been too crazy a day, except for whatever's happening on Waiakiwe. My goodness, inbound traffic is been a thing for a couple of hours now. And look at James Gishuru over the drift. It's still very, very busy. Outbound traffic towards Red Hill still continues to pile. And the traffic on the Thika Superhighway coming in from Allsops through towards Survey is still pretty thick as your service lanes come to an end. Apart from that, I think we're managing Friday not too poorly. Coming in from Jiro onto Kangunda Road, still a little bit heavy, but all manageable, like we say. Let's see what happens through the morning. Talk to a SpiceFM KE on X. At 19 minutes to 10 o'clock this morning, looking at the health situation, somebody sent a comment in earlier and said, you just need to go to places where there is no spotlight and see what is actually happening in medical facilities where people are either being treated or otherwise. Unfortunately, the amount of negligence that we see has increased over the years. And when people are actually paying attention to what a patient is saying, are we looking at the commercial over the treatment of patients today? That when people die because of some kind of negligence, are we looking at it and saying that this should actually never happen again? But if we stick onto the commercial side of things, how much money, in the hundreds of thousands to the millions, are people having to fork out for procedures that are unnecessary? And where did we get to the point whereby for healthcare, for medicine, for treatment, that money then became more important than the treatment and health of people? When did we get there? On what moral ground do you have to put somebody in a medical facility who is untrained, that is performing CSs on women, that is treating people and giving them medication and treating them for surgeries, that does not have a medical degree, or has whose shadow has not darkened the four walls of a classroom to be able to earn certification to do these things? But people are walking in, and we say that we have a system that is operational. It is not possible.
Do you know the number of people walking in this country with after surgery, walking with things in their bodies? I have a friend who's a lawyer who took his son, a 10-year-old son, for surgery. And by accident, commission or omission, they left an item inside his body. They've already closed him up. So the boy can't articulate the kind of pain he's feeling. So the father, this lawyer friend of mine, kept buying medicine. The young boy is in and out of school. By the time they're going to do an x-ray to figure out why is this pain, it clearly showed there was something that was left inside his body. Today, it's a legal issue, because if you want recourse in this country for medical negligence, you'd rarely go anywhere. Let's be honest, you'll rarely go anywhere. It will cost you a lot. And this is a lawyer. The whole case has taken years and years to solve. the hospital has refused to admit that they are the ones who made that mistake.
I'm sorry, but how?
They're not admitting that the doctor who operated made that mistake.
How else do you have a foreign surgical object in your body if not through surgery? You don't swallow a speculum. How do you get something like that in your body?
You know what they've been telling him? And what he actually called me seeking help and said, can this thing be highlighted in the media? This is a lawyer who can afford to push this case. You know what they said? We are investigating.
You know, maybe the item was working on the corridors of the hospital, then it slipped and fell when the surgeon was doing his thing. Yeah.
How many more cases of things like this do we have to deal with before this is handled or paid attention to? Notwithstanding the number of cesarean sections that we see prescribed by doctors that are actually unnecessary. The natural way of giving birth is the natural way of giving birth. The cesarean section actually should be used when there is some kind of complication for the mother to then be delivered of her baby. However, we also know that in order to perform a cesarean section, there is an element of money that comes in. It is more expensive to have a cesarean section than it is to deliver the normal way. Now, we have had quite a number of those that say, well, you know what, I'm seeing certain complications. The best way for us to go about this is if you have a cesarean section. And I think these are some of, not that I think, just from what we see, the stories are the numerous stories of women who have been told the best way for us to do this is for you to have a C-section. And if we're looking at the costs of that, you're going anywhere between 50,000 to 150,000 shillings on the lower end for this procedure to be done. It all points to the same thing, that why do we insist on the commercialization of healthcare when it is a responsibility to make sure that people are better, that they are well, and then not being able to take responsibility should something go wrong later? There are too many cases. There are too many cases of neglect.
We lost we lost the moral code. We lost integrity. There was a time when the profession was actually a calling. For you to say you want to be a doctor, it's not just a career path. It's actually a calling because you are helping people. You are saving lives. But the greed that comes with it, because you need bills to be paid. I mean, we were just talking about this yesterday, and we're saying the expansion of hospitals, especially when you're coming up with these satellite clinics, it's a brilliant idea. You're basically moving services from a major hospital that is extremely busy to where the people are in the villages or in the estates. It's a brilliant idea. But like the case I pointed out, I'm explaining my symptoms, and this young person, and I can't fault this person, is because they're being pushed because you want to expand, which is the biggest hospital, which has this number of clinics in all these spaces. They're actually on Google trying to figure out what my symptoms are, and they reach a conclusion that you have spinal arthritis. And I'm thinking, wait, I sit for long hours behind my computer. They actually told me, go do this x-ray, go do this test, go do this test for the bones. Costs around 50,000 at the time. I walked away, took painkillers, and started watching stretching exercises on YouTube.
And you were fine.
And I was fine.
No, but you did the same thing as your doctor. You Googled.
Exactly.
You and your doctor. Same. But you know what's important is, first, there are very good doctors out there, and I can't overstate that enough. They're very good doctors, nurses, and by the way, not much gets said about nurses, but there are wonderful, wonderful nurses in this country who, by the way, in some instances have actually saved lives because they took the slack from a doctor. Let's pay kudos to them. But the main problem here at the center is the lack of the sacredness of life. As a country, we take life as a joke. So let's take what Dennis has said. Let's say that he actually believed that he had arthritis of the bone. And let's say between the tests, they give you meds for arthritis. that have side effects, etc., etc. And this person is doing that off of Google. What is the value of your life at that point?
There's no value there.
There isn't. At that point, there's no
It's
value.
what I'm able to pay, the consultation fee, the drug fees, and that's it.
Exactly.
I'm just one more person who's actually making them meet their targets at the end of the month.
Yes. Number 2 is the fact that healthcare is mostly done by doctors but run by business people. So the doctors want to do the medicine, but the people who actually run the thing are not medics.
And they want a return on the investment.
Absolutely. And, they're looking for a situation whereby you would come back to them. Probably the most difficult thing I will ever have to do on this show is talk about my experience. On the 1st of September, this year, 2025, my son would have been 17. I was pregnant with this baby, and I, of course, had no idea what I was doing. And I had a doctor who, at some point, I knew something was wrong. And I called her and I said, something is wrong. And I am just not feeling like everything is okay. I mean, I've never done this before, but something is wrong. So she said, okay, come to hospital. One of the biggest, best hospitals in this country. Come to hospital. She wasn't there. She just said, well, just go and they'll find you and you'll say, okay, fine. We did a test, okay, and as is the case for a lot of pregnant women, it's not a UTI, okay. Well, they said it wasn't, so we said we keep it moving. And I said, I was with my husband. I said, you know what, something is wrong. And they said, well, no need for us to do a test. You'll be okay. And I believe that was the phrase I used. Something is wrong. And we did the first test. I don't even till now. I don't know what the results of that test say. But it was a Sunday morning, and we sat in this hospital for maybe 6 hours, and unbeknownst to me, at that point, I was leaking amniotic fluid.
What?
So obviously, at that point, my baby was dying, and I didn't know. But I'm not a doctor, and I'm not a medical professional. And I was in a hospital where there were nurses, and there were doctors, and there were lab techs who did tests, and they didn't find out what the problem was. And my baby died the next day with an I'm sorry from the doctor. But what she did the next day was prescribe medication for me that essentially I went into an unintended abortion, which I should have had no business taking on that day. And my son died on the 1st of September. And if they had paid a little bit more attention, if somebody had done what they were supposed to do, I would celebrate my son's 17th birthday this year in September. It's 17 years later, but it's very difficult for me to talk about it. But how many people go through situations whereby we just needed you to pay a little bit more attention?
Yeah.
We just needed you to do your job. We just needed you to not be concerned that you can prescribe 10 different tests, as opposed to looking at me and saying, what's wrong?
Okay.
This is the situation. This is the thing.
It's supposed to be professional.
Yeah.
But love is professional.
It's okay. It's okay. How do we even end this show?
How do we?
We don't. Because that pain doesn't end. that
God has given you strength.
grief
God has
doesn't
given you that
end.
strength. 17 years.
17 years.
Yeah.
God gave you that grace and that strength to be strong.
You know, Kenya, if you are listening, we are not doing PR. We're not doing this to attack a hospital, to attack an individual. We're doing this because we have personal stories.
Oh God.
When Dennis talks about his daughter, that person is real. When Du talks about a child 17 years ago would be turning into an adult, it's real. When I touch the back of my head and remember how much pain and how many bills I had to pay, it's real. So we're not condemning a sector. We're just saying, as a country, as a people, we're not ending this conversation. We're saying, can we do better? Please. Can we just care that much more? Can we hurry that bit more? Can we inspect that bit more? Can we value life just a bit more than we value money? Please. I don't know what else to say.
You know, it's so painful to lose a loved one. I almost lost my own daughter, and oh God.
We can do better.
Yes, we can.
And all of the things that we talk about, I mean, it's very difficult, but all of the things that we talk about, whether we're talking about healthcare today on this program, as we do every day, whether we're talking about education, whether we're talking about responsibility, and I say it all the time, how much value do we place? Where is the value that we place? Value placed on things that means even if you make a mistake, that you bear the responsibility and accountability for it.
Yeah.
Even if you've gone wrong, you can come back and do it better. But we cannot be in a situation whereby we make excuses. We cannot be in a situation whereby we choose not to do better every day. People are dying. People are dying every day. We started off this hour with talking about a woman who had to run for her life from a medical facility that should have saved the life of her child. It's me 17 years ago. It's somebody today.
Yep.
What I strongly, you know what I believe is what man cannot do to someone or to an institution that does that, and you leave a very painful memory to someone, you leave a scar. And I believe if somebody does that deliberately, you think of profit before you think of life, or you ignore negligence and you continue with life like it's just normal, but somebody's crying somewhere, someone is hurting somewhere, you deny someone life. I'm a very spiritual person, and I believe if that person doesn't pay in this life, they will pay in the afterlife. If they don't, they have a generation behind them that will suffer and pay for the price and the consequence of what this person or this institution or what these people actually do. Someone down the line will pay for it.
Allow me to read the last paragraph where we started this morning, because I think it's fit. I had to run away, bleeding, naked, with a urinary catheter between my legs, barefoot, and with a dead baby inside my stomach, to save my life, because the doctors decided to go and hide and left me on a theater table alone after realizing they messed up. And sometimes many Kenyans feel like many times we've been left on the theater to save ourselves, naked, and the future in our hearts gone. It cannot be.
It is not the option.
Yeah.
It is not the solution. The things that we talk about are representative of the experiences that very many people are going through, but have no recourse, they have no money, they have no outlet to be able to share these stories. They come out as pain points, but if anything, they must also come out as solution drivers. We have to do better. We have no business doing anything if we cannot take care of our own people. If we've lost our value, the only business that we have is trying to get it back. This has been Kenya's biggest conversation. This week is the Situation Room. A lot to think about and to continue to talk about. Good morning. It's now 10 a.m.